Dongjiang University of Commerce and Technology. Yi Linchuan hadn't slept a wink all night, dark heavy bags sagging under his eyes. He gaped, utterly stunned by the sight unfolding before him. This was his first class after wrapping up his freshman year. Their beloved counselor, the campus goddess, stood at the podium going over scholarships and financial aid programs. But Yi Linchuan couldn't focus on a single word she said. Floating right above the counselor's head was a pale blue, translucent screen. Character, Chen Wanjun. Looks, peerless beauty ranking scale. Grotesque average pretty goddess, unmatched stunner. Age, 31. Relationship status, divorced, single. Intimate partners count. 1. Current mindset. Fresh off a sexless marriage that crumbled due to incompatible intimacy. Her heart feels hollow and empty. Current desire. A physically robust partner who won't intrude on her personal life. An exclusively casual, mutually beneficial arrangement would be ideal. Standard extraction reward. Peak physique, god-tier figure, elite bedroom prowess. Available extraction mode, standard only. Yi Linchuan was thoroughly confused. Why was a character stat panel hovering over his counselor's head? And the details written on it were wildly inappropriate. He'd read plenty of racy online novels, so he knew exactly what the looks ranking and partner count implied. Glancing around the classroom, he saw no similar panels above anyone else's heads. The girls all bore small beauty ratings, each marked differently. Average, pretty, grotesque. The system was ruthless. Just because one girl weighed 200 gene, it slapped her with a grotesque label. He recognized that girl labeled grotesque. During military training breaks, she'd ranted non-stop about the drill instructor picking on her. Yi Linchuan had stood right behind her, barely holding back laughter. It had been nearly mid-autumn festival back then. She'd been built like the plump mooncakes everyone loved for the holidays. As for the boys, not a single stat panel floated above any of them. What on earth was going on? The girl he'd chased for 3 years, Tang Tsuitsue, had officially rejected him the day before. He'd tossed and turned all night, unable to sleep a minute. Her roommate had told him a sophomore rich kid had swept her off her feet with an iPhone 17. That very night, she hadn't come back to the dorm. After a sleepless night, Yi Linchuan had made up his mind. There were plenty of other women in the world. He'd already moved on. So was he losing his mind, hallucinating all this? Ding. Congratulations, host. You've awakened the desire extraction system for frequently leaving positive reviews for tomato novel authors. Where had that voice come from? Who's reading tomato novels in here? Can they turn off that annoying system chime? It dings non-stop. It's infuriating. Yi Linchuan thought to himself, baffled. He was a die-hard web novel fan. He'd listened to audiobooks every night during senior high self-study, and he'd seen this exact trope 100 times. But he glanced left and right. None of his classmates in this pointless filler class had reacted at all. Coupled with the stat panel he'd just seen floating above Chen Wanjuan's head, could he really have awakened a system? No need to be shocked, host. The system favors avid readers who leave genuine praise. You have truly awakened the system. The voice didn't come from outside. He could tell it echoed straight inside his mind, his consciousness. Is this really a system? Tell me what this extraction system even does. Yi Linchuan shouted silently in his head. The host can view the innermost desires of all women ranked goddess tier or higher. By extracting their desires, you can turn their hidden cravings into tangible rewards. Extraction has 2 modes, standard extraction and critical extraction. Critical extraction multiplies reward values several-fold. Critical extraction? Is it what I'm thinking, like the critical hits from those old adult web novels? Yi Linchuan asked internally again. Precisely. You're a quick-witted host. Wait a second, so I don't have to do anything at all? I can just extract other people's desires and get rich instantly. Theoretically, yes. However, you only have 5 total extraction uses. To reset your extraction count, you must fulfill their innermost wishes. This is known as repaying the wish. Repaying a wish not only resets your extraction limit, but also unlocks deeper, hidden desires of that character for you to view. That explained why he could see Chen Wanjuan's stat panel. Word around campus was that their counselor was the most elegant, breathtaking goddess across the entire university. She always wore thin-rimmed glasses and spoke in a soft, gentle tone. Her daily uniform was a crisp white blouse paired with a tight pencil skirt. Every man's gaze locked onto her wherever she walked. Yet this poised, refined woman's deepest longing was a casual physical partner who wouldn't meddle in her life. If Yi Linchuan extracted this desire of hers, he'd immediately gain the exact physique she craved. Staring at Chen Wanjun, he mentally commanded the system, extract. Extract right now. The extraction button on Chun Wanjuan's floating screen lit up the second his thought registered. Extraction successful. Target character Chun Wanjuan's desire harvested. Reward acquired. Peak physique god-tier figure, elite bedroom prowess. Remaining extraction uses. April 5th. Yi Linchuan instantly felt every muscle in his body tighten and harden. He surreptitiously lifted the hem of his t-shirt to glance down. 8 rock solid, defined abdominal muscles lined his stomach. At that moment, he fully believed he'd truly awakened a system. This wasn't some psychotic breakdown, for extraction chances still remained. Speaking of goddess-tier beauties, there were more than just their counselor in his class. Yi Linchuan scanned the rows of desks ahead, then swept his gaze backward until he spotted the girl he'd been searching for. When he twisted around, she was chatting with her roommate, only offering him a soft side profile. Her side features were clean and delicate, with soft facial lines, a gently arched nose, and a mild, tapered jawline. The kind of understated beauty that grew more charming the longer you looked. Character, Li Xiaoya. Looks, goddess-tier beauty ranking scale. Grotesque average pretty goddess unmatched stunner. Age, 18. Relationship status, single. Intimate partners count, 0. Current mindset. Her roommate keeps flaunting a limited edition Hermes Kelly handbag gifted by her wealthy boyfriend. Li Xiaoya is consumed by envy, desperate to own one for herself. Current desire, a limited edition Hermes Kelly handbag. Standard extraction reward. A 5 million renminbi shopping card valid at the Hermes flagship store in Dong'an District Mixi Mall. Available extraction mode, standard only. During the 15 days of military training, rumors swirled that 3 boys had confessed to her, and 6 had asked for her WeChat ID. Everyone hailed her as the class beauty. With her pure, delicate features, sweet smile, and warm, approachable personality, she was the textbook girl next door goddess. Yet beneath that innocent exterior, she burned with envy over luxury designer bags, just like every other woman. This so-called pure goddess was no different from Tang Tsutsue, the girl he'd pined for, who dumped him over an iPhone 17. Being able to peer straight into women's true inner thoughts made the world suddenly feel endlessly fascinating. Whether it was Counselor Qin Wanjun or Li Xiaoya, every woman wore a mask, her public persona starkly contrasted against her hidden cravings. This was utterly exhilarating. This system was tailor-made for a player. Back in high school, he'd binged every dating guru's playbook videos. If money hadn't been tight, he'd never have wasted his time being a love-struck simp. He'd sworn back then that if he ever struck it rich, he'd live exactly like those gurus, and now it looked like he could start that life before he even graduated college. System, extract Li Xiaoya's desire. Extraction successful. Target character Li Xiaoya's desire harvested. Reward acquired. 5 million renminbi Hermes flagship store shopping card. Remaining extraction uses, March 5th. Reward has been issued as a digital shopping card. Log into your Hermes member account with your phone number to view the balance. Hermes official notification. Dear Platinum member, your membership has been activated successfully. Current account balance, 5 million renminbi. He had to admit, this system was absurdly overpowered. From the stat panel, all Li Xiaoya wanted was a single luxury handbag. Yi Linchuan knew next to nothing about designer goods, but even the priciest bag couldn't cost more than 100,000 renminbi. Yet extracting her desire rewarded him 5 million, dozens of times its actual value. It was practically a critical extraction without even trying. Only when the host lives in abundance can you properly fulfill others' inner wishes. The system mechanics are perfectly balanced. The system's voice chimed in, answering his unspoken question. Balanced, sure. He hoped it stayed this generous forever. Hermes was top-tier luxury, coveted by countless people. The 5 million balance could easily be converted into straight cash 1-to-1. Yi Linchuan fished out his phone in a rush, pulled up WeChat, searched for the Hermes mini program, and logged in using his phone number linked to his WeChat account. On his personal profile page, a blinding string of numbers stared back at him. 5 million.00. The currency was confirmed as renminbi. 5 million yuan, earned with nothing but a single thought. His father worked as a mid-level manager at a small private firm back in their county, earning a mere 8,000 renminbi a month to support the entire family's food, housing, and daily expenses. He'd made more money in one mental command than his father earned in a lifetime. His family's life would turn around completely with this fortune. Still, Yi Linchuan decided not to tell his parents right away. A freshman college student suddenly showing up with millions of yuan would immediately make them fear he'd gotten mixed up in illegal activity. It would terrify them to no end. His parents were doing fine without extra money from him anyway. His father's job was low stress, mostly delegating work to subordinates. His mother stayed home, splitting her days between cooking and mahjong games. There was no urgent need to send cash home just yet. He'd take time to lay groundwork first and extract more wealth while he was at it. There was another goddess tier girl in his class, too. He'd pushed himself to raise his exam score from a lackluster 400 to 519 in senior high, all to enroll at Dongjiang University of Commerce and Technology, the same liberal arts school as Tang Tsuetsue. The campus was overflowing with women. The gender ratio had once stood at 4 boys to 6 girls, but as engineering majors grew more popular, male enrollment had dropped even further this year, leaving a 3 to 7 split. Even if he'd failed to win Tang Tsuetsue over, he owed her a debt of gratitude for leading him here. Without her, he'd likely have ended up at a shoddy second-tier university or even a junior college. Now that he had the system, this school felt like paradise on earth. Yi Linchuan scanned the classroom again, and sure enough, another pale blue translucent screen floated into view. Character, Zhao Xuani. Looks, goddess tier beauty ranking scale. Grotesque average pretty goddess unmatched stunner. Age, 18. Relationship status, single. Intimate partners count, 0. Current mindset. Her family struggles financially, only sending her 2,500 renminbi monthly living expenses. Every time she argues for more money, her parents call her wasteful, leaving her utterly dejected. Current desire. Meet a wealthy boyfriend who will cover all her university living costs, ideally gifting her over 10,000 renminbi and spending money each month. Standard extraction reward. 10,000 renminbi deposited into your account sharp at 8 a.m. every day. Permanent validity. Available extraction mode. Standard only. 10,000 yuan a day. To a college student who'd never seen serious wealth, that number was astronomical. Yi Linchuan fought the urge to extract her desire right away. 10,000 daily was impressive, but it only matched the salary of mid-level managers at big corporations. Hardly the lavish income of a true heir to a fortune. The god-tier wealth systems he'd read about granted hundreds of millions a day. 10,000 felt embarrassingly low tier in comparison. Zhao Xuani didn't even dare dream bigger. If only she'd wished for 1,000,000 yuan daily instead. Still, if he triggered a critical extraction, the reward could multiply 8 or 10 times. Netting him 100,000 a day, that would be something worth celebrating. Triggering a critical extraction wouldn't be hard, either. All Zhao Xuani wanted was a rich boyfriend. He just needed to convince her he was wealthy. She was drowning in frustration over her tight budget right now, the perfect moment to sweep in and win her over. Since he planned to embrace the player lifestyle, picking an easy target to start with was only logical. 3 goddess-tier beauties, all hiding starkly contrasting inner cravings beneath their polished exteriors. Yi Linchuan's heart soared with excitement. He pulled out his phone and opened Zhao Xuani's WeChat chat. Their last conversation ended with a cute cat meme he'd sent her. Zhao Xuani was their class monitor. While she ranked goddess tier, just like Li Xiaoya, far fewer boys chased her. Her demeanor was far more mature than Li Xiaoya's girl next door charm. She had a small, fair face, soft quiet eyes, a slender straight nose, and vivid crimson lips. She stood tall, nearly matching Yi Linchuan's 180-centimeter frame. She often wore the same pencil skirt style as Counselor Chen Wanjun, pairing it with sleeveless knit tops or casual button-down shirts in summer. Standing at the front of the classroom, many students mistook her for a faculty member. Younger boys all kept their distance, instinctively sensing she operated on a completely different level than teenage male undergrads. Their last chat had been about registering for the campus running app. The school's clunky software had driven them both to vent their frustrations. Zhao Xuani was unfailingly polite to everyone. She volunteered to handle every class matter in the group chat and patiently answered every classmate's question. Yi Linchuan had pegged her as an independent, self-reliant woman. Clearly, he'd misjudged her completely. His fingers tapped quickly across the screen, and he typed out a message. Monitor, do you know what brand handbags girls usually like? I'm planning to buy one as a gift. Budget around 50,000 RMB is fine. He hit send and waited for her reply. He had no doubt she'd write back. Earlier, he'd asked everyone in the class group to share their family backgrounds and parents' occupations, thinking it was a homework assignment from the counselor. Now he realized she'd been quietly scouting for wealthy boyfriends back then. All he needed to do was dangle a hint of affluence, and she'd dig for every detail. As class monitor, Zhao Xuani maintained a flawless public image and never touched her phone during lectures. She only saw Yi Linchuan's message once the bell rang to dismiss class. Bored stiff from the tedious lecture, she stretched and grabbed her iPhone. These past few days, she'd chatted with every boy in the class and logged their family financial situations. Everyone said the e-commerce program at Dongjiang University of Commerce and Technology was full of second-generation factory owners from Jiangsu and Zhejiang provinces. But after asking around, she'd only found 7 or 8, 3 of them girls. And the rest ran small plastic bag or novelty toy factories with minimal wealth. It made her even less motivated to pay attention in class. Yet she had to uphold her perfect model student persona and never zone out openly. Her phone screen lit up, and she tapped straight into WeChat. Besides Yi Linchuan's message, 2 other classmates had texted her about class business. Only Yi Linchuan's note stood out, jarringly out of place. Zhao Xuanyi frowned softly, recalling the family background form Yi Linchuan had filled out. His father was a mid-level manager at a county private firm, his mother a housewife. Yi Linchuan didn't carry himself like a wealthy heir, either. All his clothes looked cheap street market finds. Yet here he was asking about a 50,000 yuan bag to give as a gift. How could an average student afford such an expensive present? He couldn't even borrow that much via consumer credit apps. Zhao Xuanyi mulled it over, then typed her reply. You're buying a bag that expensive as a gift? Who's it for? A family member? Will your parents let you spend that much money on a gift? She fired off 2 questions in a row. A dozen seconds later, Yi Linchuan sent his full response. It's for a girl I'm pursuing. It's my own living expenses. My parents don't really track how I spend it. I've never paid much attention to designer brands before. I used to dump all my spare cash into video games. You always dress so nicely, so I figured you'd know all about this stuff. Yi Linchuan wasn't foolish. He'd chosen to ask her precisely because he knew Zhao Xuanyi would be fluent in luxury fashion and accessories. Anyone hunting for a rich boyfriend would master that knowledge as basic preparation. He dressed in cheap, unremarkable clothes, so he couldn't rely on his appearance to fake wealth. He'd have to build that impression through conversation instead. All he needed to do was plant a tiny hint of affluence and let her watch him spend real money. Cash couldn't lie. Zhao Xuanyi fell silent for several minutes after reading his message. Only after a long pause did she reply. At that price point, you can get classic styles from top luxury brands. Hermes Picot and Lock, Chanel WOC, LV Capucines, to name a few. Just as he'd suspected. Women studied designer bags the same way men obsessed over luxury cars. They might not be able to afford them, but they could name every style. I've never heard of any of those brands. Can I buy them in person offline? I don't want to wait for delivery. Sure, Mixi Mall in Dong'an District is full of top luxury boutiques. You can shop there directly. Would you come with me to pick one after class this afternoon? I'm clueless about designers and don't want to pick something terrible. I'll get you a small gift as thanks, and if I win the girl over, I'll bring you an even bigger present later. Yi Linchuan laid out his bait, waiting for Zhao Xuanyi's reaction. Zhao Xuanyi shot back a reply almost instantly. Sure thing. I've got nothing planned this afternoon anyway. Truth be told, she'd made plans to hit the night market with her dorm mates. Yet she was burning to find out if Yi Linchuan was really as well off as he'd implied. If he could casually gift a handbag worth tens of thousands of yuan, his family was definitely far from ordinary. After class, Yi Linchuan had obtained his system and planned to linger by the teaching buildings during his packed daytime schedule, observing attractive young women to siphon the desirable cravings they gave off. But he soon discovered a limitation. He could only see an attractiveness rating above the heads of unfamiliar girls, not their full stat panels. Even those marked as goddess tier revealed nothing more than their score. A system prompt popped up to clarify the rule. Host may only view the full stat panel of a goddess tier female if you two are acquainted with one another. He tossed and turned all night after Tang Tsuitsue was stolen away by another guy, leaving him drained and unmotivated to strike up conversations with any goddess tier beauties. With no afternoon classes on his timetable, he headed straight back to the dorm to catch up on sleep. He didn't wake up until past 5 in the evening, feeling thoroughly refreshed. He'd agreed to meet Zhao Xuanyi at 5:40, and by 5:30 he was already waiting at the school's main gate. Zhao Xuanyi didn't keep him waiting long. At 5:35, she rode a shared campus e-scooter through the school gates to meet him. She wore the exact same outfit she'd had on earlier that day, save for a fresh coat of lip gloss that lent her lips a vivid, luscious crimson hue, plump and ripe like a strawberry begging to be bitten. Standing face to face, her feminine allure was impossible to ignore. Class beauty Li Xiaoya stood at roughly 165 centimeters, while Zhao Xuanyi towered at 177 centimeters. Even with Yi Linchuan's 180-centimeter frame, she almost looked taller than him. And she was only wearing New Balance trainers, no heels. Slip on a pair of stilettos, and she'd easily dwarf him entirely. Not that Yi Linchuan minded the height difference. In fact, the thought crossed his mind that carrying her would feel far more satisfying this way. I ordered a ride-hailing car. It should be here any minute. Yi Linchuan brushed the stray thought aside and checked his phone for the vehicle's location. Catching sight of his Redmi phone, Zhao Xuanyi sized him up suspiciously once more. He was still dressed in the same clothes from class. Unbranded casual trousers, a faded graphic print t-shirt, and a single pair of domestic brand sneakers that were the only recognizable label on his whole outfit. To all appearances, he was just an average student, maybe comfortably off, but nowhere near wealthy enough to splash tens of thousands on luxury bags. By this point, Zhao Xuanyi was half convinced he was stringing her along. Perhaps this was some cheesy trick teenage boys pulled to play hard to get? She resolved then and there. If he turned out to be lying, she'd spin on her heel and leave without a word, cutting all contact for good. Though her thoughts were sharp, her tone stayed light as she spoke. It's not that far. We could have just taken the bus. But if you've got that much pocket money to spare, why not buy a car for campus? The school district's huge, and parking's free for students too. Her probing questions never let up. Yi Linchuan saw straight through her testing. Spent the whole summer glued to video games. My mom signed me up for driving lessons, but I never finished the exams. In truth, he already held a full driving license. It was just a convenient excuse for not owning a car. Oh, I see. Zhao Xuanyi nodded earnestly, cementing her impression of him as a die-hard gamer. Just then, his booked ride pulled up to the curb. He climbed into the back seat first, with Zhao Xuanyi sliding in after him. The way she settled in brought to mind those borderline inappropriate short videos he'd scrolled on Douyin. She turned her back to the car door, smoothed her skirt over her hips, lowered herself onto the seat, then swung her legs inside one after the other. Every movement highlighted her killer figure to full effect. If asked to pick between her and class beauty Li Xiaoya, Yi Linchuan would choose Zhao Xuanyi without hesitation. Her curves were far more pronounced, clearly the product of regular workouts. Her bust easily a D cup, possibly even an E or F. Li Xiaoya, by contrast, barely filled a B cup. The gap was stark. Along the drive, Yi Linchuan bombarded Zhao Xuanyi with questions about luxury goods. He genuinely knew nothing about the scene, while she was practically an expert. Mixi Mall stood as the most upscale shopping center in Dongjiang, a second-tier city. Its first and second floors were lined with flagship stores for every major luxury brand. The ride dropped them off in the underground car park. As they headed for the lifts, the parking rules posted on the wall made Yi Linchuan's eyes widen. Free parking hours were tiered by membership rank. The top tier, Black Gold membership, required a cumulative spend of 1 million yuan or an annual spend of 500,000 to unlock, granting exclusive parking bays and lifetime complimentary parking. Linchuan, after asking me about so many brands in the car, have you settled on one? You don't need to splurge too much for a first gift. Something worth 10 to 20,000 yuan is more than enough to show your feelings. You're still a student, after all. If you hand over something outrageously pricey, your parents might even demand the recipient return it. Zhao Xuanyi offered him an easy out while continuing to gauge his financial standing. If he lacked the funds to pay at checkout once they stepped into the high-end boutiques, she'd be left stuck in an awkward spot alongside him. No worries, money's not an issue. My cousin said you've got to spend freely when chasing a girl, and my parents fully support me dating while at university. Yi Linchuan tossed off a casual lie, all the while scanning the signs to find where Hermes was situated. Let's head up to the second floor first. You said Hermes is top tier, right? I reckon an Hermes bag makes the perfect gift. Zhao Xuanyi nibbled her lower lip beside him, utterly baffled by the young man in front of her. Even mature as she was, she'd never set foot inside a flagship luxury boutique before. Raised in an ordinary household, she'd never mustered the courage to cross their thresholds. Yi Linchuan, however, stood tall and strode confidently inside without hesitation, leaving Zhao Xuanyi no choice but to follow. Good afternoon, sir. Are you looking for anything in particular? Our new seasonal apparel all arrived just last week. A female shop assistant named Yin Meiwan greeted them warmly as she stepped forward from the left of the entrance. All the boutique's attendants were women aged 25 to 35, moderately attractive, yet none qualified as goddess tier. Yi Linchuan figured any goddess-level staff here would get poached away instantly. They could easily tell Yi Linchuan's clothes carried no designer labels, bordering on shabby, yet they never let that show. As attendants for an ultra-luxury brand, they knew better than to withhold basic respect from any customer bold enough to walk through the doors. Besides, luxury goods were no longer entirely unattainable for ordinary people. Countless women drained their husbands' half-year salaries for a single handbag, after all. Yi Linchuan's only oddity was his youth. I'd like to look at women's handbags, Yi Linchuan stated plainly. We have an extensive range of totes. If this is for your girlfriend, This entry-level bucket bag would suit someone her age perfectly. Yin Meiwan gestured toward a brown leather handbag priced at 28,000 yuan. For all its price tag, Yi Linchuan thought it hideous, indistinguishable from the woven baskets elderly aunties carried to the wet market. Would anyone carrying this not look like they were rushing to grab discounted groceries? While that thought ran through his head, Zhao Xuani's eyes lit up the second she laid eyes on the bag. She made no move to correct the assumption that she was his girlfriend, so Yi Linchuan spoke up first. She's not my girlfriend. This is a gift for someone else. This one's far too cheap, and it's ugly to boot. His blunt dismissal left Yin Meiwan confused. Most men would secretly relish being mistaken for a couple. Why would he rush to deny it? Worse still, clad in such plain clothes, he'd written off a 28,000 yuan bag as too affordable. It didn't take long for her to land on an alternative explanation. He was buying an expensive bag as a bribe for a favor, which explained why the entry model felt too modest for his purposes. Then take a look at this bolide. It's a timeless icon of Hermès elegance, designed back in 1923, and still a staple of modern fashion after 100 years. Yin Meiwan presented a second style priced at 70,000 yuan. Zhao Xuani chimed in straight away. This one's lovely, and well within what you'd expect to spend. Countless celebrities and influencers carry this design. Yi Linchuan turned to her. Which do you think looks better, black or tan? Tan's the classic choice, in my opinion, Zhao Xuani replied after a moment's thought. By this point, all lingering doubt about whether Yi Linchuan could afford the bag had vanished. The relaxed, unforced confidence in his gaze when glancing at the price tags couldn't be faked. Her curiosity now fixated on who the recipient of the luxury bag would be, and she was 99% convinced he was a genuine wealthy heir. He cut a fine figure, 180 centimeters tall, a lean, balanced build, sharp, chiseled facial features. The only flaws were his messy hair and poorly coordinated casual wear, hardly deal-breakers. Zhao Xuani's heart had already begun to soften toward him. Better yet, he came across as an oblivious, sheltered gamer, which meant winning him over would be effortless. Wrap this bolide up for me, please. Oh, I remember my cousin-in-law had another Hermès bag shaped like a small triangle that looked really nice. Why don't I see any like that here? Yi Linchuan feigned casual curiosity, referring to the Kelly bag Li Xiaoya had asked for. He'd looked it up online beforehand, learning it was one of Hermès' high-end lines costing a minimum of 130 to 140,000 yuan. Yin Meiwan thought for a second, then pointed to a display case. Do you mean this one? Her finger rested on a black handbag labeled Kelly, with a small line of text underneath. Display model only, not for sale. Zhao Xuani tugged Yi Linchuan's sleeve and murmured in his ear. Linchuan, Kelly styles are outrageously expensive, and regular customers can't just walk in and buy one. You have to meet a forced purchase quota first. Sometimes you're expected to spend hundreds of thousands extra just to qualify. Yi Linchuan had never heard the term forced allocation quota. Could you explain what that means, miss? He turned to ask the shop assistant instead of Zhao Xuani. These styles are ultra rare, so we keep minimal stock on hand. They're only available to our highest tier members. If you've never spent with us before, you'll need to spend at least 200,000 yuan to upgrade to premium member status before you can join the waiting list. Zhao Xuani knew this unspoken rule plagued all top luxury brands, though Hermès was unique for being open about it. Other brands would simply claim stock was unavailable until customers hit their quota thresholds. She echoed the assistant's words. Linchuan, Hermès Birkin, Kelly and Constance lines are all notoriously hard to source. Allocation ratios usually hit 1 minute and 1.5 seconds, or even 1 to 2, meaning for a 150,000 yuan bag, you'll need to spend an extra 2 or 300,000 in store just to qualify. Why not stick with a regular style instead? For once, Zhao Xuani genuinely worried about draining his wallet. Come to think of it, my mom signed me up for an Hermès membership a while back, Yi Linchuan said as if the memory had only just surfaced. He pulled up the Hermès mini program on WeChat and held his phone out to Yin Meiwan, revealing a gleaming platinum member badge on his account page. Yin Meijuan's voice caught in her throat the second she laid eyes on the screen. P Platinum member. And your account balance here is astronomical. She'd thought she'd landed a lucrative single bag sale, only to discover she was serving a top-tier platinum client. It baffled her how anyone with such elite Hermès status could dress so plainly. Surely platinum members lived and breathed high fashion? Yet his mention of the account belonging to his mother made it all click into place. Sir, we do have a Kelly in stock right now. A black alligator leather model priced at 200,000 yuan. Shall I retrieve it for you to inspect? Yin Meiwan sprang into action without delay. Seeing his account balance had confirmed he had unlimited funds, There was no sense holding back on the premium stock. Beside him, Zhao Xuanyi stood utterly stunned, lost for words. As someone who followed luxury fashion religiously, she knew exactly how prestigious Hermes Platinum membership was, only attainable with annual spending in the millions, and stripped away the moment annual expenditure dropped the following year. With that rank, he bypassed the forced allocation quota entirely. Lin Xuan, what kind of family do you come from to have this sort of disposable income? All her careful, gradual probing went out the window as she blurted out the question burning on her tongue. Lin Xuan offered a self-assured smile. We're not rolling in extreme wealth or anything, just own a few industrial properties back in my home county. We never want for money, that's all. He struck a modest, unassuming tone. Zhao Xuanyi composed herself quickly after his reply, calming her flustered excitement. So you're the fabled county-based elite, then? No wonder you were ready to drop tens of thousands on a gift. I can't help wondering which lucky girl has caught young Master Yezai. Her words held a subtle undertone of quiet jealousy, even as she fished for details. She knew she was striking competition, tall, curvaceous, having trained to maintain her figure since high school to accentuate every feminine curve. What's more, she'd been the first to grow close to Lin Xuan. Yet far fewer boys pursued her than Li Xiaoya. Jealousy came naturally to women, no matter how hard they tried to suppress the emotion. I'm buying the Kelly for Li Xiaoya, our class beauty. Looking at the options just now, those tens of thousand yuan bags felt far too cheap for her. So I figured I'd splurge on something nicer. Speaking of which, that bolide you picked out earlier is yours, like I said before, a small token of thanks for coming with me today. Lin Xuan made no secret of his plan to gift the 200,000 yuan Kelly to Li Xiaoya. The bag was his way of making good on his promise to her. He'd told Zhao Xuanyi this deliberately, aiming to spark jealousy. The more anxious and envious she grew, the faster she'd fixate on him and push their relationship forward. A trick he'd picked up from countless dating guru clips online. As a teenage boy, he'd binged hours of that content daydreaming. Now that the tomato system had fused with his mind, he planned to become the new master of romantic strategy. Zhao Xuanyi had never imagined Li Xiaoya would be the recipient of the luxury Kelly, the pure, ethereal goddess every boy in their class fawned over. She'd seen Li Xiaoya as her primary rival from the first day of university, both blessed with striking beauty that shone even under ill-fitting military training caps and uniforms. Zhao Xuanyi firmly believed she had a better figure and more mature charm, yet Li Xiaoya still drew far more male attention. The thought of Lin Xuan gifting a 200,000 yuan handbag to Li Xiaoya, while she only merited the comparatively modest 70,000 yuan bolide, instantly soured the appeal of her prospective gift, no matter its value. No, I can't possibly accept this, it's far too expensive. Half her refusal stemmed from not wanting to appear materialistic, the other half from a sharp twinge of resentment toward Li Xiaoya. As she turned the offer down, Yin Meiwan returned from the stockroom carrying the alligator Kelly, alongside a branded paper shopping bag, holding the pre-wrapped bolide. She'd overheard every word exchanged between the two. A 70,000 yuan handbag was merely a small token in Lin Xuan's eyes. He was far wealthier than the average rich kid, able to read the unspoken longing and envy flicking across Zhao Xuanyi's face. The seasoned attendant feared the sale might slip. She rushed to interject to salvage the sale. Sir, what do you think of this Kelly? The bolide you asked to have wrapped earlier is all packaged up as well. She handed the alligator Kelly to Lin Xuan first, then reminded him of the waiting bolide. Wealthy young men almost never backtrack on purchases once the merchandise was prepped, not wanting to lose face. This Kelly's perfect, wrap it up too. Also, you mentioned all the new seasonal apparel arrived this month? Send me a full matching set in an XL. My mom keeps nagging me about how shabbily I dress. Of course, sir. Please take a seat and help yourself to some water. I'll get everything packed right away. Yin Meijuan's grin widened from ear to ear. The other attendants in the boutique watched on, green with envy. Luxury boutiques like this all enforce a strict set of rules for their sales associates. One staff member assigned to one customer, with shifts rotating regularly. Poaching clients is strictly forbidden, unless the guest is an acquaintance of yours. Lin Xuan sat down to wait for Yin Meiwan to pack his garments. Meanwhile, Zhao Xuanyi was utterly speechless with shock. 2 handbags alone had cost nearly 300,000 yuan, and Lin Xuan was still buying multiple outfits to add to the bill. All told, their trip would easily top 500,000 yuan in spending. This level of consumption was far beyond what a minor heir from a small enterprise could ever afford. It was plain to see Lin Xuan belonged to the ultra-wealthy elite, likely an A11 household, or even an A12 tier family. She had to consider, This might be the only chance she'd ever get in her life. A shot to marry into old money and climb the social ladder. I can't accept this. I only told you a little about luxury goods. I couldn't possibly take such an extravagant gift. Besides, the person you're trying to win over isn't me. Zhao Xuanyi spoke softly, her voice audible only to herself and Yi Linchuan. A faint blush crept across her cheeks as she finished speaking, a look the normally poised, mature Zhao Xuanyi never let anyone see. She hoped this vulnerable display would catch Yi Linchuan's eye. It's not that expensive. I spend more on in-game skins than this bag. If you don't want it, you can go tell the sales lady to return it yourself. Yi Linchuan delivered the line loud enough for every associate in the shop to hear. That single bag meant a hefty commission for Yen Meiwan, who had chanced upon this wildly generous young master and had no intention of letting the sale slip away. As she sorted the clothes, she kept a close eye on Zhao Xuanyi's every move. The paper bag sitting on the table felt to Zhao Xuanyi as if it weighed a ton. On one hand, she wanted to leave a good impression on Yi Linchuan, to prove she wasn't a gold digger. On the other, that 200,000 yuan Kelly bag was incredibly tempting. What 18-year-old girl could resist the advances of a top-tier rich heir? If Yi Linchuan ended up with Li Xiaoyao instead, she would at least walk away with a 70,000 yuan handbag, more than 2 years of her living expenses combined. Yet the thought of Li Xiaoyao winning Yi Linchuan's affection without lifting a finger filled her with burning resentment and jealousy. Watching her struggle, Yi Linchuan knew his ploy had worked. He could see straight through her polished mask of maturity, grace, and elegance. Deep down, she could not overcome her material desires. She was just as money-driven as anyone else, her poise merely a veneer waiting for a wealthy man to strip away. There was a phrase for this kind of contrast, and the sight stirred a strange thrill in him. Yen Meiwan read Zhao Xuanyi's inner turmoil just as clearly. She hurried over with an armful of garments for Yi Linchuan. Sir, this style comes in several shades. Would you like to try one on before picking a color? No need. Wrap all of them up. Yen Meiwan froze. She'd suggested trying on the clothes, hoping to pull Yi Linchuan aside and talk sense into the young woman. But his reckless spending far exceeded anything she'd anticipated. Zhao Xuanyi stared in equal disbelief. Sir, you want every single one of these pieces? All of them. Yi Linchuan had more than enough money to spare, and splashing out would only leave a deeper impression on Zhao Xuanyi. Right away, sir. Yen Meiwan nodded earnestly. Seeing Zhao Xuanyi still wavering, she stepped beside her and murmured, Miss, this bolide is the dream bag for countless women. Are you certain you want to return it? After years working in luxury retail, Yen Meiwan had met every type of woman imaginable. Zhao Xuanyi was dressed in cheap fast fashion, with only a pair of New Balance sneakers as her priciest item. Yet she could rattle off facts about high-end designer goods without hesitation. People like her almost always harbored a love for luxury, even if they hid it well. And she was still holding back, even now. Zhao Xuanyi was put on the spot. What girl wouldn't crave a Hermes of her own? She'd already refused the gift minutes earlier, yet here sat a 70,000 yuan bag, hers for the taking. If she said yes, would Yi Linchuan think poorly of her? Yi Linchuan watched her flush bright red, unable to utter a single word of refusal. There was no point leaving her twisting in the wind, so he spoke up to offer an out. Don't bother returning it. It's not worth the hassle over such a small sum, and the sales lady relies on these commissions to make a living. If you feel awkward accepting it, you can treat me to dinner sometime. His request was simple. It gave Zhao Xuanyi a graceful way to accept the gift, while planting a hook to draw her closer. Zhao Xuanyi's hesitation melted instantly. Then, I'll graciously accept your kindness, Linchuan. I know a wonderful private bistro nearby. If you haven't eaten yet, I'd love to treat you. As she spoke, she pulled the handbag tightly to her chest, clutching it as though terrified it might vanish. Satisfied the sale was sealed, Yen Meiwan rushed to finish packing Yi Linchuan's purchases. The final bill came to 488,292 yuan. The store rounded it down to 488,000 yuan flat. The haul included multiple Hermes outfits in identical designs, but different colorways. Sir, everything's packed. We offer a complimentary delivery service. Would you like us to ship all this straight to your private residence? That sounds convenient. Drop them off at the entrance of Dormitory Block 3 on the new campus of Dongjiang University of Industry and Commerce. Our campus has open access, so delivery staff can enter freely. Very well, sir. Could you add our official WeChat account? I'll message you once the delivery arrives, and send you updates on all our new arrivals moving forward. Yen Meiwan held out her store's corporate WeChat QR code. Unlike the plot lines in some urban novels, luxury boutiques enforce strict rules barring associates from casually asking customers for personal contact information. This official business account was mandated by the store manager. Sure. Yi Linchuan pulled out his phone to scan the code. The budget Redmi phone in his hand looked jarringly out of place. How could someone drop nearly $500,000 on luxury goods, yet carry an entry-level smartphone? He paid no mind to the odd contrast, and left the boutique with Zhao Shuani trailing behind him. Zhao Shuani's mind was still reeling from her brand-new Hermes bag. She hurried to keep pace. When they first arrived, she deliberately kept a full meter of distance between herself and Yi Linchuan. Now, she walked barely a palm's width away, half a step behind him. If he swung his arms even slightly wider, his elbow would brush against her curvy figure. Yi Linchuan had noticed this shift, yet Zhao Shuani seemed oblivious, drifting sideways to inch closer with every stride. A glance at her system status panel revealed a shift in her current mindset. Having realized Yi Linchuan is an ultra-wealthy heir from at minimum an A12-tier family. She intends to steal him away from Li Xiaoya before she gets the chance. Her plan is to leverage her full, feminine figure to win his attention. Having a system that let him peer straight into people's inner thoughts was incredible. If she planned to use her body to tempt him, there was no harm in enjoying the moment early on. Yi Linchuan suddenly halted mid-step. Caught off guard, Zhao Shuani stumbled forward and collided chest first against his arm, soft and yielding. Linchuan, why did you stop? She paid no mind to the accidental contact, only asking with genuine concern. Nothing. I thought I stepped on something. Our taxi should arrive soon. Let's walk a little faster. He dragged his shoe against the pavement for show. Zhao Shuani had booked a private bistro several kilometers from the mall and over a dozen kilometers from campus, having pre-ordered a taxi in advance. They arrived just after 7 in the evening. As it was a weekday, the restaurant was quiet. Tucked inside a riverside courtyard attached to a private townhouse, the space was serene and intimate, perfect for a date. Glancing at the menu, Yi Linchuan saw a wide range of dishes spanning affordable to exorbitant, catering to all budgets. The venue felt tentative. He must have seen its local promotional videos on Douyin. Linchuan, I've already ordered a few dishes. Would you like to add anything else? How about some wine? The house red wine is homemade by the owner, and everyone raves about it. A faint, shy blush spread across Zhao Shuani's cheeks as she mentioned drinking wine together. Just the two of them, sharing a bottle of alcohol. Yi Linchuan checked her system panel again, and her mindset had shifted once more. Current mindset. She hopes drinking wine with Yi Linchuan will loosen their inhibitions, leading to a romantic physical encounter that will pull him away from Li Xiaoya for good. He blinked in surprise. Was this really how women thought? She was willing to go to such lengths to become a rich heir's girlfriend, truly a scheming woman. There was no way he could turn down the wine now. A wise saying echoed in his mind. Never pass up a good woman, and never waste a bad one. Besides, for all her materialistic tendencies, Zhao Shuani was untainted. It was far simpler knowing exactly what she wanted, his money, than guessing at someone with hidden, unreadable motives. We don't need more food. What we've ordered is plenty for two. I don't mind wine if you'd like some. Zhao Shuani's order included fish, shrimp, chicken wing hot pot, and 2 vegetable sides. The photos in the menu looked delicious, and the portions were more than enough. Great, I'll order a bottle of red. Her heart hammered like a V8 engine beneath her ribs, her fingers trembling around the menu. She could not afford to wait any longer. If Yi Linchuan won Li Xiaoya over with gifts, her chance would vanish entirely. Even if opportunities arose later, she would only ever be the other woman, a role that would cheapen her. Yi Linchuan watched Zhao Shuani's cheeks flush without a drop of alcohol consumed, and the sight struck him as faintly amusing. Without the system revealing her inner thoughts, he might have blamed the stuffy air, but they sat in a small private booth fitted with central air conditioning. There was no reason for her to overheat. While she placed the wine order, Yi Linchuan pulled out his phone and opened Douyin. As any teenage boy would, his feed was flooded with suggestive, borderline risque content. It was then he noticed the system could also tag the women in these videos with appearance ratings. Take the curvy, statuesque influencer he'd followed previously, standing 185 centimeters tall. Her profile bore a stark red label, unnatural. From what he'd observed that day, the system rarely issued such extreme classifications. The countless students he'd passed in lecture halls and the cafeteria had only received generic average ratings. The unnatural tag was reserved for those with something drastically altered about their appearance. He'd only seen the label on heavily modified luxury sports cars before. It all clicked. Her signature exaggerated curves were artificial. He'd been duped. Yi Linchuan tapped her profile and unfollowed her instantly. Scrolling further, nearly every other suggestive streamer had only lackluster, average ratings despite their flattering camera angles. The beauty filters were blatant fraud. He mass unfollowed over a dozen creators mid-scroll, absorbed in uncovering the truth behind their polished online personas. Zhao Xuanyi watched his concentrated expression from across the table. She'd assumed he was handling important business, until she stole a glance at his screen and saw him scrolling through risque live streamers. Right in front of a real woman. He was wasting time on online content? She glanced down at her own figure, questioning her appeal. She knew she was attractive, with curves that rivaled any online streamer. Back in high school, talent scouts had approached her and her friends at the mall, offering roles in short dramas and live streaming gigs. But her parents had turned them all down, and she'd never wanted to enter that industry, seeing it as selling herself cheaply. "Linchuan, what are you watching?" Zhao Xuanyi interrupted him, biting her lower lip as if holding back unspoken words. Yi Linchuan lifted his head. "I'm researching how beauty filters online erode trust between people over the internet." It was no lie. Of the dozen streamers he'd just viewed, barely one scraped by with a pretty rating, none qualifying as stunning. His faith in online appearances had plummeted entirely. "Linchuan, let's chat instead. Can I call you just Linchuan from now on?" "Sure." Yi Linchuan shrugged indifferently. Zhao Xuanyi's heart lifted when he set his phone aside. Since he did not take the initiative to make conversation, she glanced at his forearms and voiced her curiosity. "Do you work out regularly?" His defined, toned forearms stood out sharply, and she herself was a fitness enthusiast. She could tell his physique went far beyond a casual hobbyist. "I do. I work out at my home gym from time to time." Yi Linchuan answered without hesitation. The perfect physique the system had granted him required consistent training to maintain, and he planned to stick with it long term. Zhao Xuanyi fixated on one detail from his reply. He owned a private gym at home. "You must spend hours training to look this toned. You said you love gaming too, right?" In her eyes, dedicated gamers were usually lazy, either scrawny or soft around the middle, two hobbies that seemed incompatible. Before the system's physique boost, Yi Linchuan had indeed been thin, with lean, subtle muscle mass, the kind many women found appealing. "I have a personal trainer at home who pushes me to train daily. It's just become routine after so long." He doubled down on his wealthy heir persona in her mind. "Then, do you have a full set of abs?" Her cheeks flushed bright red as she asked, her gaze locked unblinkingly on his torso. "A faint 8-pack, yeah." "Can I see?" Zhao Xuanyi posed the bold question without hesitation. Yi Linchuan did not refuse. He lifted the hem of his printed t-shirt, revealing a sculpted 8-pack of abdominal muscles. Zhao Xuanyi swallowed hard. A strong, athletic build was a top priority for women seeking partners, in any era. "Linchuan, can I touch them?" Yi Linchuan tilted his head, surprised by her boldness, but nodded his consent. Zhao Xuanyi stretched out a slender, pale hand and brushed lightly over his stomach. The ticklish sensation sent his heart racing instantly, yet hers beat even faster. She was certain he could hear it pounding across the table. This boy was flawless, tall, wealthy, handsome, with a sculpted physique, and they were the same age. If she let Li Xiaoya claim him, she would regret it for the rest of her life. 10 lifetimes, even. She pulled her hand back and glanced down at her own midriff. "I work out too, Linchuan. Look, I've got faint abdominal lines too." She tugged up the hem of her sleeveless knit top slightly, revealing a smooth, toned stomach marked with a soft faint line, unmarred by excess fat, framed by striking curves above and below. A warm surge of heat stirred in Yi Linchuan's chest. "Impressive. I took advantage of you earlier, so you can touch mine to even things out." Yi Linchuan's throat went dry. His hand moved of its own accord to her stomach, gliding over impossibly smooth skin. He fought the urge to let his fingers wander further. They were in a restaurant, after all. He suspected she would not pull away if he crossed a line, but he held back. He knew her true motives, and the main event awaited them later that night. There was no need to rush the small appetizer now. "You're in great shape too." Zhao Xuanyi giggled at the compliment, shedding the cool, mature aura she normally projected entirely. It was the stark contrast between her two sides that captivated him. They had barely exchanged a few more words when the server arrived with their food. First to arrive was the salt-baked prawns. Each prawn was as thick as 2 fingers, looking absolutely mouth-watering. "Linchuan, let me peel the prawns for you. You won't have to lift a finger." Before Yi Linchuan could even pick up his chopsticks, Zhao Xuanyi had already reached over. She deftly peeled a prawn, but instead of placing the meat into his bowl, she held it straight to his lips. "Linchuan say," Zhao Xuanyi's tone was soft, as if feeding a small child. Yi Linchuan didn't hesitate. He opened his mouth and took the prawn meat from her hand. His lips brushed accidentally against her fingertips, and he distinctly felt her arm tremble slightly. After they'd eaten several prawns, the waiter brought over the chicken hot pot and a bottle of red wine together. Linchuan, let me pour your wine for you. Zhao Shuani fussed over him nonstop. Yi Linchuan daily needed to move a muscle the whole time. She poured him a shallow glass, while filling her own nearly to the brim. Holding up her wine glass, Zhao Shuani's expression turned earnest. Linchuan, thank you so much for the handbag you gave me today. It's the most valuable gift I've ever received in my life. I don't know much about wine etiquette, but I felt I ought to toast you. Truth be told, Yi Linchuan didn't know the rules either. Neither of them realized red wine was meant to be sipped slowly. He clinked his glass against hers, and she downed her entire serving in one gulp. 3 seconds after swallowing, the crimson alcohol flushed all the way up to her cheeks, painting her whole face bright red. Zhao Shuani had miscalculated one crucial detail. She'd never drunk alcohol before, while boys generally held their liquor better than girls. 2 18-year-olds, barely out of their teens, sat tucked away in a quiet private dining room, copying grown-ups as they clinked glasses and drank together. It didn't take long for Zhao Shuani to hit her limit. Her poised, elegant composure crumbled completely, and her words came out stammered. She also grew far bolder with what she said. Linchuan, who do you think is prettier, me or Li Xiaoya? Why do so many guys chase after her? She wasn't dead drunk, just drunk enough to pluck up the courage to ask a question that had been weighing on her mind for ages. I can't speak for other boys, but I heard she's turned down quite a few suitors. I've always liked taking on tougher challenges myself. Yi Linchuan truly had no clue. Before he'd gotten his system, he'd been deeply insecure. He'd thought landing a pretty girl like Tang Cuicui would have been way out of his league, let alone someone as stunning as Li Xiaoya. Linchuan, answer me. Who's more beautiful, her or me? Zhao Shuani pressed, desperate for a clear answer. Yi Linchuan thought for a moment. You each have your own charm. You're more mature, and she's more innocent. It all comes down to personal taste. I'm way prettier than her, Zhao Shuani huffed, unsatisfied with his neutral answer. She reached across the table and wrapped her hand around his forearm. Do you know what makes me better than her? Feeling the warmth of her palm against his skin, Yi Linchuan's Adam's apple bobbed as he asked, What's that? Zhao Shuani tugged his arm into her embrace, holding it tight against her chest, wrapping him in a warmth he'd never known before. Linchuan, this is a special treat only for you. Thank you for the gift today. As she spoke, she pressed her cheek gently against his arm and closed her eyes, feigning drunken sleep. Pretending to be passed out, Zhao Shuani was definitely buzzed from the wine, but nowhere near unconscious. It was clear she'd set this whole plan in motion. Yi Linchuan pulled up his system panel to check her shifting mindset. Current mentality. She has done everything she can to show off her mature feminine charm to Yi Linchuan. Now she's pretending to be drunk to lure him into offering to take her to a hotel. He sighed softly. Yi Linchuan hated disappointing people's hopes. Class monitor? Hey, monitor. He shook her arm lightly. Linchuan, my head's spinning so bad. Can you take me somewhere to rest? Zhao Shuani leaned even closer, pressing herself against him as if trying to merge their bodies into one. Can you stand up at all? I'll hail a taxi to take you back to the dorm. A faint smirk tugged at Yi Linchuan's lips as he deliberately suggested the dorm, waiting to see how she'd respond. No, don't take me back. I don't want my roommates seeing me this drunk. They love gossiping. If they find out, the whole class will know by tomorrow. I'm the class monitor. Sneaking out to drink would look terrible. Can you take me to a hotel instead? She stared up at his profile with big, pleading eyes after finishing her plea. All right then. There are plenty of hotels along this street. The street where Zhao Shuani had picked the restaurant was lined with quiet bars, homestays and hotels, an area packed with young couples out on dates. It was obvious she'd been plotting every detail from the moment she chose the venue. The restaurant operated on scan to order, and Zhao Shuani had paid the bill as soon as they'd finished ordering. Yi Linchuan lifted the limp Zhao Shuani to her feet and led her out of the private eatery. A budget motel sat right next door, but Yi Linchuan had no fondness for such places. He'd heard they were riddled with hidden cameras, more so than banks. He wouldn't have minded being caught on camera himself, but the thought of Zhao Shuani's footage winding up online rubbed him the wrong way. He'd splashed 70,000 on her handbag. Strangers had no right to gawk at her for free. He opted to walk another 100 meters to a slightly pricier 3-star Junbo hotel instead. He booked a 500 yuan king-size room and guided the inebriated Zhao Shuani upstairs. There was no need to wonder how she'd brought ID. Digital identity cards worked for hotel check-ins these days. He couldn't help brushing against her as he supported her, yet Zhao Shuani clung to him even tighter with both arms. When she heard he'd booked a king room, her body visibly shuddered. They reached the 5th floor. and Yi Linchuan swiped his room card to unlock the door. The three-star hotel wasn't overly lavish, but it was spotlessly clean. The room featured light wood decor, and the crisp white linens on the round king bed looked immaculate. Half supporting, half carrying Zhao Xuanyi, Yi Linchuan laid her gently onto the mattress. He pulled up her status panel again to check her state. Current mentality, hoping Yi Linchuan will stay the night. If he tries to leave, she will find a way to make him stay. A playful smile crossed Yi Linchuan's face once more. Monitor, you rest here for the night. I'm heading back. He turned to leave as he spoke. Zhao Xuanyi froze completely. In that instant, every ounce of 18 years' worth of self-confidence shattered to pieces. How could such a pretty girl draped right in front of him leave him completely unmoved, ready to walk away, without a second thought? The moment Yi Linchuan took a step toward the door, Zhao Xuanyi grabbed his wrist. Don't go, please. She scrambled to her feet and wrapped her arms around his back. Linchuan, don't leave. Please, prove to me I'm more attractive than Li Xiaoya. Though he didn't turn around, Yi Linchuan felt dampness seep into the fabric of his shoulder. Zhao Xuanyi was crying, and her tears were genuine, not an act. Current mentality, Yi Linchuan's decisive departure has convinced her charm pales in comparison to Li Xiaoya's. Her self-confidence has collapsed, and she needs Yi Linchuan to rebuild it for her. What man could resist a girl in such a state? Yi Linchuan tilted his head slightly, his cheek resting near hers as he asked, Monitor, we've only just gotten to know each other. We aren't even dating officially. Are you sure you want this? MHM, she whispered softly, yet her answer was crystal clear. At this point, Yi Linchuan lost the urge to tease her any longer. She was materialistic, yes, but she was still utterly inexperienced in matters of love. Thankfully, he'd watched enough adult films beforehand, and with Zhao Xuanyi's eager compliance, they soon lost themselves in the moment. He was glad he'd decided to claim the counselor's wish reward earlier. Boosted by his enhanced physique, even as a novice, he easily outmatched Zhao Xuanyi. Dawn broke. Yi Linchuan woke earlier than Zhao Xuanyi. Her system panel had shifted entirely. Current heart's desire. Find a wealthy boyfriend who can cover all her university living expenses, ideally 10,000 yuan or more each month. Host triggered critical hit. Random 30x multiplier activated. Critical hit reward. 300,000 renminbi deposited into account at 8 a.m. daily. Permanent validity. 300,000 yuan a day, almost 10 million yuan every month. And he could fulfill Zhao Xuanyi's wish instantly. The money was practically free money falling into his lap. Claim reward. Yi Linchuan confirmed without hesitation. Successfully claimed Zhao Xuanyi's heart's desire reward. Daily 300,000 renminbi remittance. Remaining extraction attempts. February 5th. Satisfied, he glanced at Zhao Xuanyi, still sound asleep, and headed for the bathroom to wash up. Zhao Xuanyi had planned to wake up the next morning, scream in shock, and use the night's events to pressure Yi Linchuan into an official relationship. But Yi Linchuan's stamina the night before had left her completely worn out. A total novice, no match for him. She jolted awake to her alarm. They had no first period class that day, so she'd set it for 8 o'clock. The second her eyes fluttered open, her whole body ached as if it might fall apart. She glanced around the room, panic flaring when she didn't spot Yi Linchuan anywhere. Just then, Yi Linchuan's phone vibrated on the bed beside her. The lock screen of his Android phone displayed a text preview, and the bold Industrial and Commercial Bank of China logo caught her eye immediately. Reminder, 300,000 renminbi has been deposited into your ICBC debit card ending in 0787, remitted from overseas fixed income fund. Zhao Xuanyi's mind went blank. Did Yi Linchuan get 300,000 yuan just for monthly living expenses? Most graduates only earned 5,000 yuan a month after landing full-time jobs. He received what others took years to make in a single month. She hadn't yet realized the sum arrived every single day, not just once a month. Awake? If you're up, go brush your teeth. The hotel serves breakfast, and we need to head back to campus afterward. Yi Linchuan stepped out of the bathroom to find Zhao Xuanyi staring blankly ahead, confused by her uncharacteristic lack of modesty. The night before she'd been shy and flustered, yet now she lay bare before him without an ounce of embarrassment. Ah! Zhao Xuanyi snapped back to reality and scrambled to yank the covers up to her chest. What's the big deal? We already. Yi Linchuan's sentence was cut short. You took advantage of me. I was dead drunk last night. Yi Linchuan didn't even need to check her mentality panel to guess the script she planned to act out. Monitor, you begged me to stay last night, crying your eyes out. You went along with everything too, followed me to the sofa, the bathroom, anywhere I asked. That was the alcohol talking. I've never even had a boyfriend before. You have to take responsibility for me. Zhao Xuanyi grew bolder and more self-righteous by the second. A smirk tugged at Yi Linchuan's mouth. Taking responsibility is easy. Be my girlfriend. And Zhao Xuanyi's heart leaped with joy at his words, only to plummet into despair at what came next. But we keep our relationship a secret at school. I'll treat you like my official girlfriend, cover all your monthly spending, pay for your makeup, bags, and clothing. However, you can't stop me from pursuing other girls. You know my family's wealthy. My father has multiple wives, so it stands to reason I can have several girlfriends too. Yi Linchuan laid out an offer she could hardly refuse. He had no intention of juggling multiple women and lying to each of them like Chen Hanxing. Instead, he'd lay all his cards on the table and admit he was a playboy up front. Being unapologetically honest about his intentions was the mark of a real man. She could accept the deal or walk away. Either way, he'd already gotten what he wanted from her. She stood 177 centimeters tall with long legs and an incredible figure. Just one night with her was more than enough to satisfy him for a lifetime. How could you be like this? Zhao Xuanyi's features crumpled into a miserable pout, her poised, elegant public persona vanishing without a trace. No one could hear such a blunt playboy speech without feeling hurt. Still, she couldn't ignore the perks he'd promised. Enough cash for bags, designer cosmetics, and clothing, easily tens of thousands of yuan every month. More than most full-time working women earned in a year, save for top-tier elites. If you won't agree, I can give you a one-time compensation of 100,000 or 80,000 yuan, and we'll end this here. Yi Linchuan left her no room to bargain, certain she'd cave from what he'd seen of her mindset panel. Current mentality, tempted by Yi Linchuan's promises, thrilled at the prospect of unlimited luxury goods, yet worried agreeing too readily will make her look cheap in his eyes. All she needed was a gentle push, and Yi Linchuan was happy to give her a graceful out. Monitor, you can see how deep my pockets are and how capable I am. Supporting 2 or 3 girlfriends would be trivial for me. If you agree to this arrangement, you'll be my first. All the others will have to treat you like their senior. Zhao Xuanyi knew full well what he meant by capable. She'd read palace intrigue novels before, and the core conflict in those stories was never unequal wealth distribution, but unequal affection. Yi Linchuan, however, seemed to have endless resources to share around. I need time to think. It was the last shred of her reserve. I'm using the restroom. Take 5 minutes to decide. Yi Linchuan didn't pressure her for an immediate answer. In those 5 minutes, Zhao Xuanyi barely deliberated. She'd already made up her mind the second she'd laid eyes on his wealth. She just needed a little time to ease into accepting the deal. When Yi Linchuan emerged from the bathroom, Zhao Xuanyi's entire demeanor had shifted. She'd slipped on the hotel bathrobe and lay sideways on the bed, smiling softly up at him. Made up your mind? Yi Linchuan asked as he changed his clothes, looking every inch the unrepentant playboy after a one-night stand. But you can't lie to me. You promised to cover all my living expenses, makeup and clothes. I won't splurge recklessly, and besides, I'm your girlfriend. I'll look nicer for your sake when I dress well. She gave herself a reasonable-sounding justification to spend his money without guilt. Yi Linchuan pulled up her system panel and frowned. Her primary heart's desire hadn't been fulfilled yet. He'd essentially become the wealthy boyfriend she'd wanted, hadn't he? Then it clicked. Her wish specified monthly living expenses of at least 10,000 yuan, and he hadn't sent her any money yet. I'll transfer 30,000 to your WeChat. Is that enough for 1 month? He pulled out his phone and paused before hitting send to ask. 30,000. Zhao Xuanyi stared at him in shock. How could someone casually ask if 30,000 monthly spending money was sufficient? It's more than enough, she nodded numbly. Sent. The second Yi Linchuan tapped the transfer button, the system chimed a notification. Congratulations. You have fulfilled Zhao Xuanyi's innermost heart's desire. Wish completion successful. Extraction attempts restored. Current available extractions, March 5th. The quest was finally finished. Yi Linchuan reopened her panel and spotted a brand new heart's desire. Deep-seated heart's desire. Secure Yi Linchuan's devotion through her charm. If she cannot become his wife, she hopes to remain his steady long-term lover. Standard extraction reward, plus 5 charm attribute points. Standard extraction only available for now. Critical extraction of deep-seated desires requires both physical and psychological critical hits to be unlocked. What even was a psychological critical hit? Yi Linchuan stared at the screen, confused. Psychological critical hit. Complete and total conquest of the target's heart and mind. System will issue a prompt upon successful activation. Damn, the requirements were harsh. Still, the charm stat boost barely mattered to him. Why chase extra charm when he already had unlimited money? Even a pig rolling in cash would have women throwing themselves at it. Certain internet influencers were living proof of that reality. Fulfilling this new desire meant committing to a long-term arrangement with Zhao Xuani, but that didn't bother him one bit. Few men would willingly let go of a girl with Zhao Xuani's model-esque figure, especially after witnessing her surprising hidden side from the night before. Despite lacking stamina, she'd fought tooth and nail to keep up with him the whole time. Zhao Xuani was still reeling from the 30,000 yuan transfer he'd sent her. Her entire annual university living allowance amounted to that single sum, and he'd asked if it was enough. It was far more than she could ever need. Her mind raced with plans to buy new designer outfits, luxury cosmetics, matching the expensive Hermes handbag he'd gifted her. As she thought it through, she realized keeping their relationship secret benefited her too. She could maintain her public image as a mature, independent class monitor without gossip spreading through campus. Take a shower. We'll grab breakfast and head back to school afterward. Yi Linchuan reminded her when he noticed her still glued to her phone screen. Oh, okay. Zhao Xuani put her phone away and was about to get out of bed, but as soon as she stood up, she lost her balance and tumbled straight into Yi Linchuan. Still sore, Yi Linchuan steadied her with one hand. Zhao Xuani nodded, looking utterly wronged. Why not ask for leave? I'll extend our room for another day. I don't think I need to. I'll just get used to it. Zhao Xuani had no desire to skip classes right after the semester started. She wanted to make a good impression on her classmates no matter what. In the blink of an eye, they were back on campus. The two split up tacitly at the school gate, acting like complete strangers. No one even cared that she hadn't slept in the dorm overnight anyway. When room assignments were handed out, Yi Linchuan got placed in a 6-person dorm that only had 4 occupants. 2 of them were locals who went home every night, and the third had moved out to rent an apartment with his girlfriend. His 3 roommates only popped by at noon at most, leaving Yi Linchuan the sole resident sleeping there every night. While everyone else walked to and from class with their roommates, Yi Linchuan was always alone, looking rather lonely. But he didn't care anymore. 30,000 yuan a day meant he could easily buy a house and a car, driving to school every single day if he wanted. He now had one clear goal: track down more goddess-tier girls, extract their wish targets, then fulfill each of their wishes one by one. If he could trigger critical extractions on every single one, that would be ideal. Yi Linchuan could afford to set his sights far wider. The university town around Dongjiang City was packed with top schools. East of Dongjiang University of Industry and Commerce lay Zhanghai Conservatory of Music, filled with dance and music majors. Campuses that churned out the most breathtaking beauties during student years. South of his school was Dongjiang Normal University, while to the north sat a vocational high school and a nursing college. All of them were overwhelmingly female-dominated. The playing field was massive. Now that he had money, Yi Linchuan had lost all enthusiasm for his university coursework. Receiving 300,000 yuan was a world apart from getting a 5 million yuan shopping cart. A steady 30,000 yuan flowing into his pocket each day made it clear he would never want for money again. He'd never need to hold down a job in the future. University was merely a place to expand his knowledge. That afternoon's class was a professional course covering e-commerce operations. While every other student listened intently, Yi Linchuan opened Taobao on his phone. From now on, he would only ever be an e-commerce consumer. As for starting a business, why bother grinding away when money rolled in while he lay around? Meeting more stunning girls, that was his real venture. He ordered a full top-tier Apple ecosystem, 2 pairs of Nike sneakers, and several sets of streetwear from Visvim. He refused to follow the cliché trope in many novels where protagonists drowning in cash still wore cheap street clothes and insisted on looking shabby. The kind of scene where a rich guy strolls into a 5-star hotel in a tank top and slippers, gets stopped by security just doing their job, then buys the hotel and forces the manager to kneel. There was no point in that nonsense, unless he was a Cantonese landlord. It only created unnecessary trouble. Having money meant dressing sharply to avoid all kinds of hassle. Even those Cantonese landlords dressed up nicely for weddings and big events. Yi Linchuan used Taobao's flash purchase service, ordering from local stores so delivery riders could drop everything off at the dorm gate the very same day. Most items cost a few hundred yuan extra this way, but he couldn't be bothered waiting for standard shipping. As he scrolled his phone, Yi Linchuan couldn't shake the feeling someone was staring at him. He glanced back to find Zhao Xuani sneaking glances his way. Just as he turned his head fully, he caught a pair of beautiful eyes watching him from the classroom hallway. It was Chun Wanjun, their student counselor. She must have spotted him messing with his phone mid-lesson. Usually warm and approachable, Chun Wanjun now fixed him with a warning gaze. University professors generally didn't nitpick over students scrolling phones or napping in class, but there was a line you shouldn't cross. Slacking off in elective courses was one thing. Messing around during a core professional class was plain disrespectful. Yi Linchuan quickly stowed his phone away. He hadn't forgotten the counselor's innermost desires, either. His impressive physique was all thanks to her. After all, he owed her a proper thank you. But to pique her interest, she first needed to notice him. He couldn't exactly march up to her, lift his shirt, and say, "Counselor, check out my 8-pack abs." That would be downright idiotic. Yi Linchuan mulled it over and landed on a perfect plan. Chen Wanjun patrolled the classroom. All the students under her charge were well-behaved, save for that boy sitting in the back row glued to his phone. Yi Linchuan, she thought his name was. He dressed plainly and seemed obedient before, but now that she got a proper look, he was surprisingly muscular. The short-sleeved summer shirt clung to his arms, clearly outlining his toned biceps. The thought crossed her mind unbidden, and she shook her head hard to clear her messy train of thought. Years of living alone after her marriage had left her prone to wandering, inappropriate thoughts. She was their counselor, while not a formal university professor. Yi Linchuan was still her student. Back in her office, barely had she sat down when Li Juan, another teacher at the next desk, wheeled her chair over to face her. "Wanjun, I know a young university lecturer, only 37, decent-looking, no bald spot, just a little paunch. Want me to set you two up? You're young and gorgeous. There's no sense wasting your life post-divorce. If you don't grab a partner now, it'll only get harder as the years pass." Li Juan reached for her phone, ready to pull up his photo. For some reason, the word paunch filled Chun Wanjun with revulsion. Her ex-husband had been exactly that. A big belly, underwhelming physique, fleeting stamina, dead weight around the house. She'd told herself she could endure it if nothing else, but his growing insecurity had driven him to cheat, with one of his own students, no less. When she'd found out, their conflict erupted, and they divorced. "No thanks, Teacher Lee. I just got out of my marriage. I'm fine living like this for now." "Fair enough, I suppose. It's normal not to trust relationships after your husband cheated. I always say a woman's beauty counts for nothing. Men always crave something new. Even if you're as beautiful as a celestial maiden, they'll tire of lobster and crave plain congee eventually. Don't take it to heart, Wanjun. I just speak without thinking, ha." Whether intentional or not, Li Juan's words cut straight to her deepest wounds. Chun Wanjun turned away and returned to her paperwork, unaffected on the surface. She'd spent the whole morning sorting spreadsheets and lost track of time until lunch hour rolled around. Sitting alone in the staff cafeteria, she grabbed her usual meal and pulled out her phone to scroll while eating. Bored watching her peers post photos of their kids and romantic couple snaps, a newly posted Moments update caught her eye. It belonged to Yi Linchuan, captioned, "Day 500 of consistent self-discipline." The first photo was a mirror selfie he'd taken outside his dorm. He was shirtless, holding an orange iPhone 17 Pro Max that covered his face, leaving only his sleek, well-defined lean muscles on full display. The second shot showcased his broad lats, a physique better than 99% of fitness enthusiasts. Without realizing it, Chen Wanjun stared at the photos for a full 10 seconds. She only snapped out of it when a fellow teacher lifted their dinner tray, and she hastily locked her phone screen, heart fluttering with guilt. She couldn't help thinking how different today's young people were. Even many sports students couldn't build a frame like that, yet this freshman, fresh off 3 years of cramming for college entrance exams, maintained such an incredible physique. Still, posting half-naked photos on Moments was wildly bold. What Chen Wanjun didn't know was that Yi Linchuan had set the post to be visible only to her. It hadn't taken Yi Linchuan long to figure out a simple way to catch his counselor's attention. He'd seen countless guys pull the same trick on Douyin before. He'd once thought those men came off as cringy, but now that he had the physique to match, he understood they were simply laying bait. While Chun Wanjun lingered over his Moments post, Yi Linchuan lay on his dorm bed, tapping his brand new iPhone 17 Pro Max to exchange messages with Zhao Shuani. Zhao Shuani was filling him in on what had happened after she'd returned to class that morning. Having spent the night off campus, her dorm mates had bombarded her with questions the second she walked through the door. Worse still, after their intense night together, she could barely walk steadily no matter how hard she tried to adjust. 2 of her roommates already had experience with men, and they'd spotted instantly that Zhao Shuani was no longer a virgin. She had no way to explain herself, so she'd simply told them she'd gotten a boyfriend. Then the Hermes handbag she'd brought sparked a fresh wave of gossip. Everyone begged to know who her wealthy boyfriend was. Zhao Shuani messaged Yi Linchuan to ask for his permission, her final text reading, "Linchuan, can I just tell them you're my boyfriend? My roommates are all such busybodies. If I don't admit it, they'll make up rumors that some old rich guy is keeping me as a mistress." Yi Linchuan left the message unanswered. Another text popped up seconds later. Please, pretty please? I'll make it up to you properly later. Attached to the message was a photo. No face, only her long, fair legs filling the frame. This class monitor, who'd never been with anyone before, sure knew exactly how to wrap men around her finger. Yi Linchuan was a soft touch to begin with, and after weighing the situation, he saw a little downside for himself. There was no hiding the truth from her gossipy dorm mates anyway. His plan was to casually date multiple women without commitment, so a few chatty girls spreading rumors didn't bother him at all. It might even help cement his image as a wealthy heir. Sure, I'll order several pairs of Balenciaga stockings and send them down to your dorm. Don't waste those gorgeous legs of yours. Zhao Xuanyi stood 177 centimeters tall, blessed with endless long legs. Yi Linchuan had been racking his brain the day before, realizing what had been missing: sheer black stockings. White, red, any color worked fine, too. Yi Linchuan was about to put his phone away and take an afternoon nap when 2 new WeChat messages popped up. Counselor Chen Wanjun. Linchuan, you need to be more mindful of what you post on Moments. I know young men your age want to date in college, but you have to maintain appropriate boundaries. You can't post photos like that. Delete it right away. Also, you spent your very first professional class glued to your phone today. Yi Linchuan had only meant to show off his physique to leave a lasting impression on her. He hadn't expected her to message him privately over it. A smug smile tugged at the corner of his mouth as he read her words. He typed out 2 replies and hit send. I'm not deleting it. This is just a normal showcase of my body. I don't think it creates an inappropriate impression, but I'll admit scrolling my phone in class was my fault. Chen Wanjun was still eating lunch when her phone vibrated, alerting her to Yi Linchuan's messages. She frowned as she read them. He'd seemed quiet and well-behaved before. Where had this stubborn streak come from? Linchuan, if you're so confident in your strength, come to my office this afternoon. Yi Linchuan stared at the text from his dorm bed, stunned. Wait, could the counselor already be that tempted? Another message followed immediately, dashing his hopes. We just received 500 boxes of bottled water for the University Town Marathon this weekend. Each class needs to send 1 volunteer to haul them. Since you're so strong, you can volunteer. A dark line creased Yi Linchuan's forehead. He vaguely recalled the marathon event the school had been recruiting volunteers for weeks prior, an activity he'd ignored entirely. Hardly anyone from his class had signed up, it seemed, and now the chore had landed on him. He thought for a moment, then replied, All right, I'll head over after afternoon class. Counselor Chen Wanjun, come straight to my office once class ends, and I'll take you there. We have hand trolleys, it won't wear you out. Yi Linchuan sent back an okay emoji. His afternoon nap was ruined. He'd already picked out a new outfit, and now he needed to fix his hair to match his polished new aura, something he'd planned to do that evening originally. But meeting the counselor that afternoon meant he needed to make a strong impression, so he headed straight for the pedestrian street behind campus at noon. Temperatures hovered at 34 to 35 degrees Celsius in Dongjiang City midday, leaving the streets nearly empty. He walked into a popular men's salon near the university, determined to revamp his look in the 2 hours left before afternoon classes. As a freshman, his hair hadn't grown very long. High school had enforced strict short hair rules. Though he'd skipped haircuts all summer, it still wasn't long enough for full curls. Still, he had thick hair and a perfect hairline, and money was no object. So the stylist crafted a Hong Kong-style side, swept-back cut for him. It was a loose, laid-back take on a slicked-back hairstyle, less rigid than Chow Yun-fat's iconic neat back, with the effortless, flowing flair of Nicholas Tse. The cut instantly added maturity to his features, exactly what he'd wanted. Before, he'd looked like a plain, unremarkable high school graduate, nothing like a wealthy young heir. Now, paired with his designer clothes, he exuded effortless refinement. In afternoon class, Yi Linchuan sat near the front, overhearing groups of girls whispering. Did anyone see how drastically he changed overnight? I know him, his name's Yi Linchuan. He looked totally average before. Who knew he was such a hidden gem? Look at his desk, he's got an iPhone 17 Pro Max. I recognize that shirt, it's Hermes. I wonder if it's real or fake. Yi Linchuan caught snippets of their chatter but pretended not to hear, quietly savoring the secret satisfaction to himself. Among the gossiping girls were several of Zhao Xuanyi's dorm mates, though their whispers carried far more skepticism. Do you think his clothes are genuine? If they are, that Hermes bag he gave Zhao Xuanyi must cost over 70,000 yuan. There's no way they're real. He dressed so shabbily before. He's probably putting on a rich kid act to trick girls. But the bag Zhao Xuanyi's carrying looked authentic when we saw it at noon. Looks can be deceiving. Counterfeit factories in Putian are insanely skilled these days. The The more flawless the craftsmanship, the more likely it's fake. Shoddy work's usually the real deal. True enough. If he really had money, why doesn't he drive to campus? Several guys in our class bring cars every day. It's a 20-minute walk from the dorms to the lecture halls, and the heat's brutal. No rich guy would walk that far. They sat far enough away that Yi Linchuan couldn't catch their words, though even if he had, he wouldn't have cared. People were bound to doubt him after such a dramatic overnight transformation. Afternoon session was an easy elective, so Yi Linchuan idly browsed Douyin, focusing on local videos. Scrolling through, he realized most of the creators he followed were frauds, faces heavily filtered with beauty effects, only a handful barely qualifying as minor beauties. Still, as the largest short video platform nationwide, there was no way there weren't goddess-tier girls somewhere. He still had 3 extraction opportunities left to use. He kept scrolling and finally spotted one familiar face. It was an old acquaintance. The post was a collage of photos. The girl in a plain t-shirt and shorts sitting on a sun-dappled football pitch, one hand raised to block the sunlight. Yi Linchuan hadn't recognized her at first glance, but his system panel immediately identified her. This was Li Xiaoya, the class beauty, posting on her Douyin account. He almost swiped past, then paused. He'd been racking his brain for a natural excuse to gift the class beauty a Hermes bag. He'd never added her WeChat before, and messaging her out of the blue to say, "Want a Hermes bag? I'll buy you 1 inch," or "I'll get you a Hermes if you date me," felt far too cringy. It wasn't that a direct approach never worked, it just suited strangers better. If a classmate tried this trick and it fell flat, it'd be so awkward. Zhao Xuanyi wasn't the class beauty by a long shot. Zhao Xuanyi made it clear she wanted a rich second-generation boyfriend. That's why Yi Linchuan dared to pull this scheme on her. But now that he'd found the class beauty's Douyin account, things were different. Yi Linchuan thought it over and registered a new Douyin account using his mobile data SIM card. He set up a username and profile pic, then immediately followed the class beauty. He didn't rush to message her right away. Instead, he posted a screenshot of his Hermes Platinum membership on his account. The caption read, "Spent so much I hit Platinum tier without even trying." He blurred out most of the balance number, but left the final 0 uncovered. If you looked close, you could tell it was a 7-figure sum. Only after finishing all that did he send her a private message. "Hey there, mind adding my WeChat so we can get to know each other?" The class beauty was unlikely to reply anytime soon, so Yi Linchuan closed the app. Class ended, and he still hadn't gotten a response. No surprise, someone that pretty must get tons of creepy messages every day. Leaving Douyin open in the background, he headed to Chen Wanjuan's office. He'd helped hand out textbooks for the class last time, roped in like every other obedient kid, so he knew exactly where her office was. Hardly any other teachers were in the faculty admin room. Yi Linchuan knocked, and a plump female admin told him to come in. She glanced at him once, then did a double take like something struck her as odd. "Who are you here to see?" "Ms. Chen Wanjun, my counselor." "Wanjun, one of your students is here." "Linchuan, you got here fast. Class just let out. Did you run over?" Chen Wanjun was typing away at her keyboard. She looked up at him, then checked the clock. Only 3 minutes had passed since dismissal. "Bell rang 30 seconds early today, so I walked out the second it went off." Classic university student move, she thought. "All right, good to see you're eager. Come with me. Listen, besides 500 crates of water, we've got 300 boxes of energy bars, plus over a dozen cartons of sweat towels to stock the school supply station. You'll all help haul everything." "You're kidding. This'll take an hour at least." Yi Linchuan didn't mind the physical work. He just hated wasting so much time on it. "Humph, you love showing off your muscles, don't you? All that bulk's perfect for hauling supplies. I'll come with you, let's go." Chen Wanjun stood up as she spoke. She was wearing her usual outfit, a crisp white button-down and office slacks. As a mature woman, her curves were softer and fuller than Zhao Xuanyi's. Still, she was shorter, so she didn't stand out nearly as much as Zhao Xuanyi. Honestly, Yi Linchuan couldn't figure out why the system rated her higher than Zhao Xuanyi. They were evenly matched in looks, and Zhao Xuanyi's long legs were obviously her winning feature. Maybe there was some hidden side to Chen Wanjun he hadn't uncovered yet. He followed her all the way to the gym storage warehouse. Delivery trucks couldn't pull right up thanks to the stone boulders outside the gym, so all the unloading had to be done by students. Why pay delivery crew to lift boxes when you've got free student labor, after all? By the time Chen Wanjun and Yi Linchuan arrived, a handful of students were already carting supplies inside. The routine was simple: stack several crates of water onto hand trolleys, then wheel them into the warehouse. Yi Linchuan thought 500 crates of water would be a breeze, until he saw what kind of water it was. Each crate held 6 5-liter jugs, 30 liters total. Most regular students couldn't lift one alone. Lin Chuan, these crates are heavier than they look. Don't strain your back. A flicker of guilt crossed Chun Wanjuan's face. She'd never imagined they'd be this cumbersome. It's fine, teacher. Young backs don't break that easy. Yi Lin Chuan waved it off. He'd already showed up. He might as well act like a man. To Chun Wanjuan's further dismay, the plan had called for one freshman volunteer per class, yet only 20-something kids had turned up, 4 of them girls. College students had caught on fast. Volunteer work without extra course credits wasn't worth their time. Her guilt spiked even more. Officially, Chun Wanjun was only supposed to supervise and wouldn't need to lift a finger. But watching Yi Lin Chuan sweat buckets hauling crate after crate, she felt terrible. She grabbed a few lighter boxes of energy bars and stacked them onto the trolleys too. Yi Lin Chuan barely broke a sweat over the workload. He'd grown up in a small county, working nonstop around the house. Back when his grandpa was alive, their village had orchards and farmland. His parents had put him to work like a pack mule starting in elementary school. Now that he'd unlocked the peak physique the system had marked as Chun Wanjuan's desire, these water crates felt like nothing. The only issue was the stifling, sweltering heat. He was drenched head to toe. He stayed in the truck bed hauling jugs down, while the other volunteers wheeled trolleys to the warehouse and unloaded them. He barely stopped to rest, using the chance to test just how strong his new body really was. Turns out he could keep pace with those viral truckload powerhouses online. Half the stock was unloaded, and he barely felt fatigued. A year ago, his arms would have been shaking like a revving V8 engine by now. Still, sweat soaked straight through his shirt. The air inside the truck bed was suffocating. While the other students hauled trolleys back and forth, he hopped down, tugged his shirt up, and wiped sweat from his hair, image be damned. Chun Wanjun, resting on one of the stone boulders, happened to glance up right then. When Yi Lin Chuan lifted his shirt, his sculpted 8-pack took her breath away, far sharper than any fitness influencer she'd watched online. It wasn't bulky or overdone. Every muscle line was carved clean, like something straight out of a manga, not real life. She'd caught a glimpse of his abs once on his WeChat moments, but seeing them in person hit differently, especially compared to her ex-husband, out of shape, overweight, and unfaithful. It wasn't just Chun Wanjun either. Several girls pushing trolleys froze mid-step, staring. They'd already noticed his insane stamina. Everyone else huffed and puffed after a few crates, but Yi Lin Chuan hauled dozens without breaking stride. Now they knew where all that endurance came from, an incredible core. Lin Chuan, are you worn out? I've got tissues here. Before she knew what she was doing, Chun Wanjun walked over and held out a pack of soft joy tissues from her pocket. Thanks, teacher. Yi Lin Chuan didn't hesitate, wiping every last sheet dry against his skin, yet his face still felt sticky. He was about to settle for that when a cool, damp wipe pressed against his cheek, light jasmine fragrance drifting off it. Chun Wanjuan's soft voice hummed beside his ear, "This'll clean the sweat off better." Yi Lin Chuan felt like she was treating him like a little kid as she gently wiped every inch of his face, then folded the wipe away. Take a break if you're tired. You finished way more than everyone else. I'll buy you a manhwa iced drink once we're done. Her tone stayed warm, like talking to a child. Yi Lin Chuan pulled up her real-time mindset panel. Current mindset. Overwhelmed with guilt for how grueling this volunteer task is. Wants to make it up to this kid somehow. If she kept seeing him as a child, this whole pursuit would be an uphill battle. Only manhwa? Can I upgrade to something pricier, like 50 yuan for KFC? Yi Lin Chuan grinned. Nope, max out at Bawang Tea. Otherwise I'll just haul boxes myself. To prove she meant it, Chun Wanjun marched over to the delivery truck. A few boys were still unloading jugs from the bed, passing crates down to volunteers with trolleys on the ground. Without a second thought, Chun Wanjun lifted a full 30-liter crate of water. But she'd underestimated its weight and overestimated her own strength. She leaned backward to heave it up, yet her supporting hand slipped. The crate was crashing down toward her when Yi Lin Chuan reacted instantly. One arm wrapped around her waist, the other shot forward to catch the falling box. He saved her from wrenching her back. His single arm bore the full 30-kilogram weight, veins bulging thick across his forearm. Chun Wanjun stared, stunned. In that split second, she truly grasped how masculine and powerful Yi Lin Chuan was. Trapped against him, her nose filled with his salty sweat, a raw, hormonal scent that shouldn't have been appealing, yet sent her heart racing faster. Seeing her daze, Yi Lin Chuan spoke up. Teacher, you all right? Did you hurt yourself? He lifted the 30-kilogram crate one-handed and set it steady back onto the truck bed. I am fine. Chun Wanjun snapped out of her trance, scrambling to pull away from his hold. Current mindset, for the first time, realizes how overwhelmingly masculine a boy Yi Lin Chuan's age can be, heart fluttering uncontrollably. Teacher, Don't push yourself like that next time. A pulled back takes weeks to heal. He echoed the exact line she'd used to lecture him earlier. Thank you. Later, I'll treat you to KFC, no arguments. Chen Wanjun didn't care about the 50 yuan anymore. The commotion barely registered with the other boys unloading water. They were too exhausted, sweat blinding their eyes. Yi Linchuan knew the feeling all too well from hauling crates alongside them minutes earlier. Much appreciated, teacher. Yi Linchuan turned to get back to work, eager to finish the tedious labor, until he glanced at Chen Wanjun and spotted a damp patch across her chest. He couldn't tell if it was sweat or spilled drinking water. Her thin, breathable white shirt clung translucent where it was wet, hinting at pale, white lace underneath. Yi Linchuan stepped in front of her at once to block the view from anyone else. Teacher, you spilled liquid on your shirt. It's see-through. You get what I mean? Chen Wanjun glanced down with confusion, then yelped in shock. She clamped a hand over her chest and rushed out words. I'm heading to the restroom to fix this. Keep unloading, okay? She turned and hurried off without another word. Current mindset. Terrified Yi Linchuan saw more than he should. This leaky chest issue flared up after her daughter's birth, and it only happens when her emotions run high. Oh, Yi Linchuan's hunch matched the system's readout perfectly. Downtown pedestrian street behind campus. Once she'd composed herself, Chen Wanjun drove Yi Linchuan to the city central plaza behind school in her tiny Geely Panda Mini. He sat in the passenger seat while she shot him subtle, probing glances over and over. She never outright asked, but it was clear she was dying to know how much he'd seen back at the warehouse. Yi Linchuan just played dumb, claiming he hadn't noticed a thing, didn't want to know anything. Only then did she relax. 1 bucket of chicken, 2 burgers, 2 orders of fries enough? Want to add more? You're young and work out. You must have a big appetite. Chen Wanjun stared at his order on her phone screen, thinking it seemed quite modest. Plenty. This is all pure empty calories anyway. Yi Linchuan's toned physique wasn't built from gym training. He genuinely didn't eat much. All right. She tapped the confirm payment button. They chatted for a while, Chen Wanjun slipping back into strict counselor mode, lecturing him about paying attention in class and how vital academic knowledge would be once he graduated into the working world. Yi Linchuan nodded along, but every word went in one ear and out the other. KFC churned out orders fast, and since it was past the lunch rush with no line, their food was ready in minutes. Once burgers stuffed her mouth, the nonstop preaching died down. Everyone said female teachers were hard to win over, and Yi Linchuan was living proof of it. You had to be firm and dominant to hold your own against someone like her. Luckily, Yi Linchuan had both wealth and unmatched physical ability on his side. He just hadn't revealed either fully yet. Chen Wanjun had only finished 1 burger and barely sipped her Coke when her phone buzzed on the table. Yi Linchuan caught the contact name on screen, Wanru. Probably her older or younger sister. Hey, what's wrong? Couldn't pick her up? What did the teacher say? Again, her grandma? I'm heading over right now. Chen Wanjun hung up and stuffed her phone in her bag. Linchuan, I'm so sorry. Something's come up with my daughter. I have to rush off. Take your time eating. I've already paid for everything. Before Yi Linchuan could get a word in, she slung her backpack over her shoulder and sprinted out. He watched her retreating back and pulled up her mindset panel. Current mindset. Her daughter Chenanchi's grandparents have taken the girl again, almost certainly to fight over custody rights. She has to rush home to sort it out. No wonder she'd bolted in such a panic. Without Chen Wanjuan's nagging hanging over him, Yi Linchuan breathed easy. Winning her over the usual way would be an uphill battle, that much was clear. She kept seeing him as a kid, and shifting that perception would take loads of time. There wasn't a single opening to flip her view right now, so he'd have to wait his chance. He'd ordered enough food for 2, and now he was left with a mountain of leftovers, all to himself. He'd only finished 1 burger, 3 chicken wings, and half an order of fries before hitting his limit. Stacks of untouched food sat across the table. He saw no point packing leftovers back to his dorm, no roommates to share with, and fried food turned soggy and disgusting after a few hours. Yi Linchuan wiped his mouth and stood to leave, until a girl glued to her phone a few tables away stood up and walked straight over to him. Hey handsome, you done eating? You gonna finish all this? If not, can we have it? Yi Linchuan sized the girl up, trendy graphic tee, denim shorts, skinny arms barely half the width of his own, covered head to wrist in full-sleeve tattoos. Rating, passerby, a delinquent teen girl, through and through, likely from the technical secondary school nearby. He'd heard the slang for scavenging leftover fast food in their circles, hunting scraps. Go ahead, I'm full. Gloves are right there. Yi Linchuan didn't mind at all, sliding the unused plastic gloves toward her. He'd felt guilty wasting all that food, so seeing someone take it wiped the guilt clean away. Thanks, bro. We're all street folks. Hit me up if you ever need a hand. I won't back down. The delinquent girl threw an over-the-top dramatic gesture of thanks, and Yi Linchuan half expected her to break into a silly dance. Tong Tong, get over here. I told you I'd get you a meal today. I meant it. The girl waved back toward her table, and another girl around the same age wandered over, tiny, barely 153 centimeters tall, stick-thin all over. She shuffled forward timidly, head hung low, clearly embarrassed to beg for leftover food. This bro's treating us today. Hurry and say thank you. The girl called Tong Tong lifted her head just enough to sneak a quick glance at Yi Linchuan, mumbling two quiet words read with shame. Thank you. Her voice was softer than a mosquito's buzz. Yi Linchuan scanned her profile. Rating: Goddess tier. He'd known her face would score incredibly high the second he laid eyes on her, and the system shared his taste perfectly. She looked roughly his age, maybe a year or two younger. High ponytail, center part bangs, delicate oval face, pale smooth skin, dark heavy bags under her eyes lent her a worn, haggard air. She wore only a plain tight gray t-shirt, her frame naturally slender, not lacking material possessions. Unlike the tattooed delinquent girl beside her, she was spotless, no ink, no tongue studs, no ear piercings at all. Sorry about her, bro. She's new to our group and hasn't learned proper manners yet. My bad. Surprisingly enough, the tattooed girl stuck to her own unwritten code of respect. Yi Linchuan decided not to leave right away. No worries, you two can sit and eat. Quick question, from your style, are you guys part of a street crew? Sure are, bro. Sharp eye. Figured you were a university student just by your vibe. We're around the same age, from the technical secondary school next door. Is it really comparable? Truth be told, a decent bachelor's degree isn't that much worse than a technical secondary school diploma. Is she one of you two? Doesn't look like it at all. Bro, she's in the same class as me. She only joined our crew today. But honestly, she sticks out like a sore thumb. She doesn't have a single tattoo. No tattoos mean no one wants to hang around her. I've been thinking of scraping together some cash to get her a design inked. Honestly, there's an easier way to get tattoo money. Snag a boyfriend. Tell him you want his name tattooed on you, and they'll fork over the cash without a second thought. Take me, for example. That's how I did mine. With that, she held out her wrist to show off her tattoo. A character had been covered up with heavy ink. Though much of it was obscured, the remaining strokes hinted it originally read something related to the surname Yang. Interesting. Want a Coke? I'll order one for each of you. Yi Linchuan put on an intrigued expression. No need. They're way overpriced here. You can buy a bottle outside for just 3 yuan. Ignoring her protest, Yi Linchuan pulled up the mini program and ordered 3 large Cokes, refilling one for himself. Glancing at the table, he thought the snacks weren't enough, so he added a crispy chicken burger for each person too. Whoa, you're so generous, bro. What's your name? If you don't mind, I could even get your name tattooed on me. No need to ink my name on your body. That's not my thing. I'm Yi Linchuan. What are your names? I'm Zhang Xiaomei, and this is Zhou Tongtong. The second Zhou Tongtong's name was spoken. A pale blue translucent screen materialized out of thin air above her head. Character, Zhou Tongtong. Looks, goddess tier beauty ranking scale. Grotesque average pretty goddess unmatched stunner. Age, 17. Relationship status, single. Intimate partners count, 0. Current mindset, overwhelmed with anxiety. Her father passed away when she was little, and her mother abandoned her. Her grandfather, the only person who took her in, is critically ill, while her grandmother constantly calls her a jinx. She hasn't received any living expenses for 3 months, and today marks the 3rd full day she's gone without a single bite of food. Current desire, to eat a full, satisfying meal. Standard extraction reward, Haidaleo membership card with a 1 million renminbi balance. Available extraction mode, standard only. Her story was absolutely heartbreaking. Everyone said 90% of these street-style teens come from broken, dysfunctional families, and it seemed the rumor held true. All she craved more than anything was a full stomach. She must have been starved half to death. If she'd wished for enough food every single day, Yi Linchuan would have thought she had bigger ambitions, but hunger had clearly left her unable to even think about the future. He immediately activated extraction on her deepest desire. Extraction successful. Target character Zhou Tongtong's desire harvested. Reward acquired. Haidaleo membership card with a 1 million renminbi balance. Remaining extraction uses, February 5th. Reward has been linked to your phone number bound to WeChat. Log into the mini program to view your balance. Yi Linchuan soon fetched the 3 large Cokes and 2 meat burgers from the counter. Holy crap. Extra large Cokes and burgers too. Bro, what's the deal? You got a crush on me? Or are you about to send us to do some dirty work? I feel like I'm your loyal soldier now. Zhang Xiaomei stared in shock. Yi Linchuan was speechless. Her imagination was running wild. I don't have a crush on you, and I'm not asking you to do anything. We cross paths, so let's just be friends. As soon as Yi Linchuan finished speaking, Zhang Xiaomei shot a sideways glance at Zhou Tongtong, her expression screaming, I get it now. Bro, let's cut to the chase. I know straight-laced folks like you look down on us covered in tattoos. Truth be told, we don't care much for people like you either. But you've been so kind to us. I can't let you walk away empty-handed. My girl here's totally clean. We've been classmates for 2 years, and she's never dated anyone. How about I set you two up? Zhang Xiaomei patted Zhou Tongtong's shoulder twice, presenting her to Yi Linchuan like a product for sale. At her words, Zhou Tongtong nervously clutched the hem of Zhang Xiaomei's jacket. Xiaomei, Tongtong, earlier we were talking about finding a guy to foot the bill for your tattoo. Any guy's fine, right? This bro's clearly a good person. He'd never treat you badly. Zhang Xiaomei gave her another pat, practically shoving her toward Yi Linchuan. Unlike Zhang Xiaomei, who'd already torn into her burger, Zhou Tongtong seemed timid. Even after Yi Linchuan set the food in front of her, she hadn't touched a bite. Eat first. You look like you're starving. If you don't want the one I touched, I can order you a brand new burger. Yi Linchuan smiled gently at Zhou Tongtong. Tongtong, dig in. Didn't you say you haven't eaten in days? Don't be shy with the bro look. He's got an iPhone 17 Pro Max. He's clearly loaded. Sticking with him would be a lucky break for you. Zhang Xiaomei acted as if she'd already sealed the deal for Yi Linchuan. These street girls didn't seem to care about trading themselves for favors, otherwise she wouldn't speak so bluntly. He couldn't stand by and watch this young girl spiral down that path. Feeding her a proper meal wasn't just fulfilling her wish, it was pulling a lost team back from the brink. Thank you, brother. Zhou Tongtong nodded politely to Yi Linchuan, then carefully picked up a fry and took a tiny bite. The second the food hit her tongue, tears welled up in her eyes. That single fry tasted like the most delicious thing she'd ever eaten in her life. While Zhou Tongtong nibbled slowly and delicately, Zhang Xiaomei ate greedily, grease smearing all over her mouth. She held a burger in one hand and the leftover Orleans chicken wings Yi Linchuan had left in the other, alternating bites between the two. This hits different. Nothing beats a KFC feast. Watching Zhang Xiaomei's unrestrained appetite, Zhou Tongtong relaxed a little and picked up the Coke on the table to sip. Slow down, there's plenty more if you want. I can afford to treat you two to all this without breaking a sweat. Zhang Xiaomei spoke with her mouth full, her words muffled by meat. Brother Yi, honestly, I've never met anyone this nice to me in my whole life. Just say the word. If you're not into Tongtong, I can hook you up with other girls from our crew, though none of them are as pretty as her. You into girls who know how to keep a man happy. She spoke completely seriously, not joking in the slightest. Have you two gone without eating for a long time? You're scarfing it down faster than your friend, like you're even hungrier. Yi Linchuan asked Zhang Xiaomei. Ugh, don't even get me started. Our school shipped us off to a factory for an internship. They paid barely over 1,000 yuan a month, and every cent went straight to the factory cafeteria. Even if we didn't make money, at least we got full meals. But that useless workshop foreman kept groping all us girls this month. He even threatened Tongtong, said if she didn't sleep with him, he'd withhold her internship certificate, and she'd never graduate. I couldn't stand for it, so I rounded up a few friends and beat him black and blue. Now we've got no income and nowhere to crash. Everything clicked for Yi Linchuan. Zhou Tongtong had no choice but to tag along with Zhang Xiaomei. Her own family rejected her, and now school had turned its back on her too. This technical secondary school was nothing but a scam. Yi Linchuan's cousin had attended 1 year ago, and he'd heard all about this racket. Schools collude with shady factories, threatening students with delayed graduation to force them into exploitative labor. His cousin had fallen for it a decade prior. He never thought the same scheme still existed today. Where have you been sleeping at night? Where else? Internet cafes. I'm tight with the network admins. We can't rent computers, but after midnight, no one patrols much. They'll let us curl up somewhere to sleep. Zhang Xiaomei puffed out her chest, acting as if she had endless powerful connections. This can't go on forever. You've got no proper place to stay, can't even shower properly. And with zero income, shouldn't you either talk to your families or find a job to make money? Yi Linchuan pressed on, sounding genuinely concerned. How? We've got no diplomas and aren't even 18 yet. No legitimate business will hire us. The only option's working as billiards hall attendants. One of my friends said she'd teach me how to scam old men out of money, but I haven't learned yet. We're not starving, so we're just taking it day by day. After hearing Zhang Xiaomei's words, Yi Linchuan thought, of course you'd say that, classic street girl mentality. But they were still far too young, just rookie delinquents who hadn't picked up all their tricks yet. Brother Yi, if you know any openings, hook Tong Tong up. She's willing to work, she'd even make milk tea. But she can't afford a health certificate. Her dad's gone, her mom dumped her, no one's supporting her. Zhang Xiaomei laid it all out bluntly, making Zhou Tongtong slump her head over her burger, too ashamed to meet Yi Linchuan's eyes. I'm still a student myself. I don't have the pull to land you jobs. But finding a place for you to stay isn't a problem. Yi Linchuan glanced at Zhou Tongtong, and the girl ducked her head even lower. Young as she was, she understood exactly what his offer implied. Starved for affection her whole life, she knew no one treated strangers this kindly for no reason. Brother Yi, you can get Tongtong a place to stay, I'll be fine. My boyfriend's quitting his job and heading back to our hometown tomorrow, so I'll go with him. Dongjiang's no place for people like us. Even a simple meal costs over 10 yuan, way too expensive. Zhang Xiaomei winced just talking about the high prices. Tongtong, I didn't let you down, right? I treated you to a feast and found you a reliable backer. Look at Brother Yi. He's handsome, super generous. What more could you ask for? Hurry up and call him Brother Yi, and we're good to go. Tongtong, what do you think? Yi Linchuan didn't rush her to answer. Truthfully, beyond her striking looks, he'd mostly stepped in to do a good deed. Br Brother Yi, could you lend me some money for food? I'll pay you back the second I get a job. Zhou Tongtong mustered up the courage to look him in the eye. Her words were a silent acceptance of his offer to house her. Tongtong, that's not how this works. He's helping you out in your hour of need, and you just plan to pay him back with cash? That's the bare minimum you owe him. When someone lends you money, you've got to give them something extra in return. Zhang Xiaomei acted like a seasoned player who knew all the unspoken rules. If she didn't already owe dozens of people tiny sums in her WeChat wallet, she might have even convinced herself of that logic. Her debts were trivial, just a few yuan here and there, never topping 30. Br Brother Yi, I see can do what Xiaomei said, I'll stay with you. Her voice trembled as she finished the sentence. Yi Linchuan smiled gently, relieved. Zhou Tongtong was far too young. Everyone knew the unseen rules of the world. Nothing inappropriate could happen with anyone under 18. I don't want anything like that from you. I'm just doing a good turn. Brother Yi, you're a stand-up guy? Let me hit you with our crew's signature salute. Zhang Xiaomei struck the iconic street girl dance move right there. She really got into it, shaking her body rhythmically. Yi Linchuan watched, equal parts amused and helpless. Once the two girls finished eating, Yi Linchuan received a system notification confirming Zhou Tongtong's wish had been fulfilled. Congratulations, host. You have fulfilled Zhou Tongtong's innermost desire. Wish repayment complete. Extraction count reset. Current extraction uses, March 5th. Yi Linchuan checked her stat panel again, and a new entry appeared. Deeper hidden desire. For her grandfather's illness to be cured. Standard extraction reward. Panacea pill, a pill capable of curing all modern medical conditions. Effects take hold gradually after ingestion. Cannot extend lifespan or reverse irreversible organ degeneration. Whoa, supernatural healing power. But there was a catch. Yi Linchuan had no idea what illness her grandfather suffered from. If his condition stemmed from natural organ aging, the pill would be useless. If he failed to fulfill this deeper wish, he'd permanently lose one extraction chance. He had no urgent need for a miracle cure right now, so he decided to hold off on extracting this reward for the time being. With full bellies, Zhang Xiaomei suddenly slammed her hand on her thigh. Shoot! Yi Linchuan stared at her in confusion. Ugh, what a waste. We rarely get a feast like this. I should have taken photos to brag about in our group chat. The last time I ate this well was when one of my friends scammed an old man out of 1,000 yuan. Zhang Xiaomei looked utterly distraught. It was clear KFC counted as high-end luxury dining within their street cruise circle. Yi Linchuan didn't know what to say in response. Zhou Tongtong had finished eating too. She'd taken her time, eating with neat, refined manners. No one would have guessed this well-mannered girl had no parents to care for her. She'd been quietly rubbing her full stomach while seated, but froze shyly the moment she noticed Yi Linchuan watching her. Let's head out once you're done. It's still early. I'll find somewhere for you two to stay. Okay, can I pack the leftovers? My friends haven't eaten KFC in months. This will be a rare treat for them. Months without fast food sounded like a stretch to Yi Linchuan. All that remained on the table was a handful of fries and 2 chicken wings anyway. Go ahead. Yi Linchuan pulled out his phone to browse rental listings. The university town was lined with apartment complexes available for rent, several right along the pedestrian street. The largest development was Donghai Sky Park, a massive community combining residential towers and commercial lofts. Shops and restaurants lined the ground floor, boasting the best amenities in the entire university district. Word had it plenty of wealthy young couples rented units here. Yi Linchuan hailed a taxi, and the three rode straight to the entrance of Donghai Sky Park Apartments. The complex's biggest selling point was direct property-managed rentals and professional on-site management. Yi Linchuan walked over to the security booth. "Uncle, I'm looking to rent an apartment. Do you have any units left?" "We've got some, but only high-floor units now. Building 3 has the 20th floor, Building 6 the 22nd, Building 7 has the 14th, 16th, and 21st floors. Take your pick." The security guard pointed to a blackboard behind him covered with vacant rental listings. "Which building's closest to the main gate?" "Building 3, no contest." "I'll check out the 20th floor unit in Building 3 then." "Sure thing. Rent for Building 3 is 2,200 yuan a month," and the guard glanced Yi Linchuan up and down. Though his clothes bore no obvious luxury logos, he carried an air of affluence, so the guard trailed off and grabbed a walkie-talkie. Xiao Lu, a young man's here to view an apartment. Come show him the unit." While they waited for the leasing agent to lead them upstairs, Zhou Tongtong stepped nervously behind Yi Linchuan. "Brother Yi, this is way too expensive. No need for something this fancy. A tiny room in the urban village would be enough for me. It's fine. I don't like staying in shoddy places, and I can easily afford this." Yi Linchuan lightly patted the top of her head to ease her worries. The apartment was in great condition, spotlessly clean, and fully fitted with all basic appliances. It was a duplex layout, with a living room downstairs and a bedroom upstairs, spanning roughly 40 square meters, spacious and roomy. At 2,200 yuan a month, the price was an absolute steal in Dongjiang City. The only reason rates stayed reasonable was the lack of a direct subway line connecting the university town to the central business district. Otherwise, rent would have skyrocketed. "I'll take this unit. I'll pay the deposit and sign the contract today." "Got it. Our policy is 2 months deposit plus 1 month's rent up front." "Scan my phone." Yi Linchuan spoke flatly. "Right away, sir." Yi Linchuan signed his name on the rental contract. After he transferred the full payment to the leasing manager, the manager registered Yi Linchuan and Zhou Tongtong's fingerprints for direct fingerprint entry access. When Yi Linchuan asked Zhang Xiaomei if she wanted her fingerprints logged too, she turned the offer down. She truly planned to head back to her hometown the next day. She explained her hometown was packed with people who lived the same street lifestyle. Many of her junior high and technical secondary school classmates had dropped out and moved back there. "Bro, I know the unspoken rules. I won't crash here tonight. I'll head back to the internet cafe to sleep and leave you two some privacy." Zhang Xiaomei pulled Yi Linchuan aside to whisper this while the contract was being finalized. "Send me your payment QR code. I'll cover your internet tab for tonight." Yi Linchuan didn't hesitate to treat her. "Thanks, bro. Just 20 yuan's enough. 15 for computer time, 3 for bottled water, 2 for loose cigarettes." Yi Linchuan pulled out his phone and scanned her code, transferring 500 yuan instantly. "Quit smoking cheap loose cigarettes. I'll treat you to Chunghua and Heediangxia cigarettes. Hope our paths cross again someday." Zhang Xiaomei beamed, clearly grateful for his generosity. "Tongtong, you stay here tonight. I've got cash for internet now. I'm going to play Valorant with my boyfriend." Zhang Xiaomei patted Zhou Tongtong's back and walked off without a second glance. Zhou Tongtong's heart swirled with complicated emotions. For the first time in her life, a stranger had made her feel cared for and protected. The warmth of being looked after brought a lump to her throat, and she fought back tears. "Sir, if you need anything later, you can reach our property managers directly via WeChat call, or head down to the front desk on the first floor." The manager handed Yi Linchuan a copy of the signed contract, formalizing the rental agreement. Yi Linchuan folded the contract and turned around, only to see fresh tears streaming down Zhou Tongtong's cheeks. "Brother Yi, I'll do anything to repay you. Don't hold back. I'm willing to give you whatever you want." Zhou Tongtong knew she had nothing valuable to offer him besides her decent-looking face. That was her only means of repaying his kindness. She threw her arms around his back, sobbing quietly against him. Zhou Tongtong was shockingly thin. Her forearms were so thin there wasn't an ounce of soft flesh, skin stretched tight, right over bone. "Listen, you already call me brother, so how about you become my sworn little sister? No need to ramble on with all that awkward stuff. You're living here now anyway. If I really wanted to do something, you couldn't run away even if you tried." Yi Linchuan stood more than 20 centimeters taller than Zhou Tongtong, who was barely 155 centimeters. He could easily ruffle the top of her head without stretching. Her hair looked dry and brittle, either from malnutrition or going far too long without washing it. "Brother, Yi brother." To a girl starved for familial love her whole life, Yi Linchuan's words struck straight to her heart. She'd grown up without parents and endured endless bullying back in their village. As a child, she'd often daydreamed of having an older brother to shield her. This brother had arrived late, but it felt like her wish had finally come true. I don't know what your family situation's like, but if what Zhang Xiaomei said is true and no one's looking after you back home, you can treat this place as your home from now on. There is someone taking care of me. Grandpa raised me all by himself and paid for my schooling. But we're dirt poor country folk. I decided to go to technical school so I could start working early and ease the burden on my family. It's just. Zhou Tongtong's voice cracked, and she swiped away fresh tears. Grandpa suddenly came down with some strange illness. One leg stopped working, and one eye went blurry. Then it just kept getting worse and worse. Grandma calls me a jinx. She says when I begged for candy as a kid, Dad rushed out to buy some and got hit by a car. She blames me for making Grandpa work himself sick just to pay for my school fees. The girl's tears burst through like a broken dam as she spoke. Yi Linxuan let her cling to him, patting her back gently to soothe her, while his mind raced to figure out what kind of sickness she was describing. Do you want to go back and see him? Did they ever take him to a hospital for a proper checkup? He waited until her sobs died down a little before asking. I do, but Grandma hates having me around. I don't even know the name of his illness. She just called it some kind of sclerosis. I don't understand what that means. Sclerosis. Yi Linxuan combed through his memories, but drew a blank. He made a mental note to look it up later. It's probably not a terminal illness, just a chronic condition that can be managed with money. Settle in here first and get your life sorted out. When I get the chance, I'll go back to your hometown with you. Everything will be fine. Having met someone who truly cared for her, Zhou Tongtong quickly opened up to him, pouring out all the grievances she'd bottled up for years. Yi Linxuan said nothing to interrupt, listening quietly, and he could feel the gap between them narrow significantly. Tongtong, there aren't any daily necessities in your room yet. Let's head to the supermarket to pick up bedding, clothes, and everything else you'll need. Oh right. Zhou Tongtong chewed her index finger and glanced blankly around, completely forgetting she'd just moved in. Most of my things are still back at the factory. The supervisor there was terrible. When Xiaomei had some people beat him up, he called the security guards and seized all our belongings. Was there anything valuable among them? Yi Linxuan asked. Zhou Tongtong thought for a moment, then shook her head. Then forget all that old stuff. We'll buy brand new ones. It won't cost much. Come on, the supermarket's right downstairs, super convenient. Yi Linxuan led Zhou Tongtong down the stairs. The list of supplies she needed was long, ranging from quilts and plastic buckets down to intimate undergarments. Brother Linxuan, we don't need to buy this much. Yi Linxuan browsed the racks of women's underwear without the slightest awkwardness. If the girl weren't so frugal by nature, he would have taken her to a far more high-end boutique instead. It's fine. These clothes need to be replaced regularly anyway. Besides, Dongjiang gets loads of rain in spring. What are you going to do if your laundry never dries? But spring's barely over. You never know with these erratic weather patterns. We could get an unexpected cold, damp spell any day. All right, once we pick these out, I'll grab you a few sets of pajamas, and we'll be done shopping. It's really too much. We've already got this big pile. A few more pajamas won't make a difference. Yi Linxuan's tone turned firm, leaving her no room to argue. Even with all the goods in the trolley, the checkout came to only 2,000 yuan. Carrying 2 bulging shopping bags, Yi Linxuan resolved to buy a car as soon as possible, or at the very least, extract one from a goddess-tier woman. Brother Linxuan, thank you so much. I'll find a job quickly and pay every cent back. Don't rush. Kids your age get scammed so easily looking for work. What if you end up with another awful factory supervisor? I can't get you a job directly, but I've got connections to ask around. Take your time before hunting. Okay. Zhou Tongtong nodded obediently. Back at the apartment, the two of them tidied up the new space together. Yi Linxuan had spent over an hour doing heavy labor that afternoon and was already worn out. After fixing up her bedroom, he took the liberty of showering there. He'd planned ahead, buying 2 sets of towels and slippers, even a set of pajamas for himself. When he stepped out of the bathroom, he noticed Zhou Tongtong's cheeks flushed bright red. Brother Linxuan, you only added Xiaomei's WeChat at KFC earlier. You haven't scanned mine yet. She held out an ancient smartphone for him to scan. The device was shockingly outdated, the Lenovo logo emblazoned on its back. The camera lens was fogged over, blurring everything. Even his much-mocked Redmi was a brand-new model that had set him back over 3,000 yuan, with top-tier gaming performance. He always carried this Redmi as a spare phone. Take this one instead. Use it from now on. It's just my spare. I barely touch it anyway. Yi Linxuan held out the Redmi. It's okay. Mine still works even if it's old. Yi Linxuan simply stared at her with a sharp, stern expression, holding the phone out without a word. All right then. Zhou Tongtong shrank back, yet a warm, fuzzy feeling bloomed in her chest. Yi Linchuan watched her swap phones before sending a request. I just transferred 3,000 yuan to you. Message me if you need more. 3,000? No, that's way too much. 500 would be plenty. I don't eat much at all. The girl's eyes widened in shock. Yi Linchuan's face fell instantly. He caught hold of her wrist. Look at you, skin and bones, tiny and underweight. People with builds like yours get sick constantly. I'm ordering you to eat meat and vegetables with every single meal, no less than 100 grams. Send me photos of every meal you eat so I can check. Before she could protest, he sent over a full 5,000 yuan. He had absolutely no qualms splashing cash after harvesting 1,000,000 yuan worth of Haidaleo credit earlier. Thank you, Brother Linchuan. Zhou Tongtong's voice went soft. Yi Linchuan turned to see her eyes glistening again, though she pressed her lips tight to hold back her tears. Well, it's getting late. I won't keep you. I'm heading out. Yi Linchuan stood to leave, but Zhou Tongtong shot forward and grabbed his wrist. Brother Linchuan, won't you stay? I wouldn't mind at all, even as your sworn little sister. She looked up at him, eyes glistening with quiet pleading. She'd brought the subject up again because the day felt like an impossible dream. She was terrified that when she woke up, she'd be back in that cold internet cafe, and every good thing that had happened would vanish like matched visions. All she had was this tiny bit of leverage, and she clung to it, desperate to hold on to this perfect reality. Yi Linchuan neither agreed nor refused. He only ruffled her messy hair. You're still so young, not even 18 yet. Why fixate on all these grown-up thoughts? I bought slippers for myself here. Do you really think I won't come back? Settle down here first. I'm a freshman at Dongjiang University of Industry and Commerce. Then, can you stay a little longer to keep me company? I'm scared being alone in a strange new place. Yi Linchuan sighed, feigning helplessness. Fine, I'll lie here for a while and chat with you. Sit down a minute, Brother Linchuan. I'm going to shower. She grabbed her clothes and trotted off to the bathroom. She couldn't let him see her smelling unwashed, not if she wanted to leave a good impression. Meanwhile, Anong District. Chun Wanjun stepped out of a rundown factory dormitory building, her infant daughter wailing loudly in her arms. Her hair was matted and unkempt, the baby's just as disheveled. Beside her walked a young girl who shared 70% of her facial features, though slighter and less curvy, her younger sister Chen Wanru. Sis, those two old folks are bound to come up with more tricks next. What are we supposed to do now? Gaining custody of her daughter Chenanshi had been Chun Wanjuan's sole priority during her divorce. She'd surrendered every last asset from her ex-husband just to win full guardianship. But her ex's parents suspected their son was infertile and stopped at nothing. They'd filed appeals. When those failed, they'd stormed the police station to make a fuss. Next, they'd marched straight into the kindergarten and abducted the child, refusing to hand her back even when police were called. This was the second time. Sigh, I don't know what to do. Those two elders are dead set on taking Chi-Chi from me. Chun Wanjun rocked her crying baby while massaging her throbbing temples. What if we move house and transfer Chi-Chi to a different kindergarten? Where would we even go? Her current kindergarten is one of the top facilities in Dongjiang. I can't sacrifice my daughter's future just to hide from those two troublemakers. Then transfer her to the absolute best kindergarten in the city. Dongjiang International Kindergarten costs 200,000 yuan a year, and you need personal connections just to secure a transfer spot. How do you think we'd pull that off? Chen Wanjun poured cold water on her sister's idea. You're right. Then what other options do we have? Calling the police does nothing. They're retirement age and know how to skirt the law, with endless free time to harass us. We can't hire people to beat them up, can we? The more Chun Wanru talked, the worse Chen Wanjuan's headache grew. The elderly couple had made it clear they would never stop tormenting her unless she handed over custody. Just thinking about endless future harassment left her overwhelmed. Back at the apartment. After her shower, Zhou Tongtong emerged wearing a pajama set of thin camisole shorts. On a woman with higher physical stats, this revealing loungewear would have left little to the imagination. But Zhou Tongtong's figure had barely any feminine curves at all. Without the system stat panel to prove otherwise, Yi Linchuan might have easily mistaken her for a scrawny teenage boy. Brother Linchuan, do I look nice? She noticed his gaze fixed on her and blushed furiously, yet she pushed past her shyness and twirled once for him to see. Yi Linchuan stroked his chin. You look cute, but you're so flat you could pass for a boy. I don't know why I developed so slowly, but I really am a girl. I can prove it, Zhou Tongtong muttered, her head hanging low, cheeks burning scarlet. No need to prove anything. I can tell just by looking. It's definitely from not eating enough. You can't even weigh 90 pounds, can you? Yi Linchuan asked. The school physical last time said 80, Zhou Tongtong murmured, deeply self-conscious about her small frame. That's exactly why I told you to eat more. Cook plenty for yourself if you know how. Zhou Tongtong had mentioned she could cook, so Yi Linchuan had bought an induction stove, plus seasonings and groceries, mostly frozen cuts of meat that suited nearly any cooking style. I'll send you photos of every meal every day to check in, brother. Her expression turned deadly serious. Yi Linchuan lay sprawled across her bed. Zhou Tongtong bit her lip, hesitated, then summoned her courage, lifted the quilt, and slid onto the mattress beside him. The air conditioner hummed cool air, making the covers feel wonderfully cozy. Having Yi Linchuan right next to her filled her with safety. Brother Linchuan, can I hug you? Yi Linchuan's Adam's apple bobbed. Restraining himself took every ounce of willpower. Brother Linchuan, today's the luckiest day of my life. Zhou Tongtong wrapped both arms around his forearm, flooded with peace. I'm pretty lucky too, gained a little sister, he smiled. Still, yesterday had been the real stroke of fortune. Without the system, he'd be pinching every penny. Yi Linchuan chatted with Zhou Tongtong until past 11 at night. She'd spent the past few nights sleeping rough in internet cafes and hadn't gotten proper rest. So halfway through their conversation, she drifted off asleep curled against his chest, light as a kitten. He'd learned the full story of her family over their talk. Her father had died in a hit-and-run car accident when she was small. The country road had no surveillance cameras, so the driver had never been caught, leaving zero compensation for the family. Her mother had abandoned her without a second thought, likely remarried somewhere far away. Grandpa had raised her single-handedly, yet Grandma blamed Zhou Tongtong for her son's death, beating and berating her non-stop throughout her entire childhood. They scraped by on a few acres of farmland and odd farm labor jobs during planting and harvest seasons. Zhou Tongtong had actually scored excellent grades in junior high and gotten into the county's key middle school, but she'd opted for tuition-free technical secondary school for rural students to skip the steep high school and university fees. Her plan had been to turn 18, get a job, and lift the financial burden off her grandparents. But shortly before graduation, Grandpa fell seriously ill. Grandma screamed that she'd bring bad luck, ordering her to stay far away and only send money if she cared. Even on her meager monthly factory internship salary of 1,000 yuan, she'd forced herself to send 500 back home every month. Her uncle had told her the 500 barely covered a fraction of Grandpa's medical bills. The old man had no medical insurance, and most of his drugs weren't covered by state medical schemes. While Zhou Tongtong slumbered, Yi Linchuan looked up her grandfather's condition online: multiple sclerosis, a chronic illness with no permanent cure. Patients required annual immune-modulating therapy, but affordable generic treatments yielded minimal results. Imported high-efficiency disease-modifying therapies existed, yet a single year's course cost a minimum of 150 to 200,000 yuan. For elderly patients, total treatment costs could climb even higher with nutritional supplements and secondary complications. No ordinary rural household could bear this. To Yi Linchuan, though, a full year's treatment amounted to less than what he earned in a single day, an effortless expense to cover. He'd already asked Zhou Tongtong for the exact name of her village and township. Later he'd arranged for someone to look into the case, fund her grandfather's treatment anonymously under a charitable donation scheme. On top of that, harvesting desire energy from Zhou Tongtong might reward him with a universal cure-all pill. If he triggered a critical harvest bonus, he could even gain multiple doses. If he ever sold such a miracle drug to terminally ill wealthy tycoons, money would be meaningless. He might even earn a major shareholder stake in a corporation like Apple. Earlier, he'd silently scoffed at how simple Zhou Tongtong's greatest wish had sounded. Reflecting on it now, he realized it was actually the most extravagant desire imaginable. Yi Linchuan had planned to slip away once she fell asleep, but seeing her cling to him, he stayed. It was still far too early for bed. He pulled out his phone and saw several unread messages from Zhao Xuani, who had fully slipped into her role as his girlfriend. She recounted every meal and errand, unbothered by his slow replies, assuming he was swamped with business. He fired off a few generic compliments, then closed their chat. He'd intended to scroll Douyin before bed, and upon opening the app, spotted more unread messages. That's when he remembered he'd messaged the class flower that afternoon. Her Douyin ID was Miami Bing. She'd sent 2 messages during lunchtime. Hello, who are you? And cat question mark emoji. Waiting 30 minutes, she'd grown confused. Yi Linchuan typed back, just wanted to get to know you. I'm also a student nearby. He figured he wouldn't hear back at this hour, but seconds later she replied. You go to a university nearby too? Yeah, I saw that short video you posted earlier. You looked stunning in it. Yi Linchuan laid his admiration out plainly. Even though he'd watched countless dating guru live streams, deep down he was still a naive college boy who never used cheesy chat-up lines. Miami and Bing, send me your WeChat ID. I'll add you. Turns out elaborate tactics weren't necessary. His wealth stat outmatched everything. Yi Linchuan sent his secondary WeChat account. He'd set up this alternate profile that afternoon, with his moments set to visible for only the past 3 days. He'd posted a photo of the Hermes garments he'd bought, captioned, "This season's pieces are gorgeous," when a little overboard shopping. The clothes hung inside his closet, with a sliver of his dorm room visible to show he was a fellow student. He attached the receipt from the nearby Mixi Mall. Less than a minute passed before a friend request from the class flower arrived, with the verification note. "It's Miami and Bing from Douyin." She seemed eager. Could Hermes really hold that much sway? Yi Linchuan smirked, focusing his mind through the chat window. Her status panel materialized. Current mindset. Curious about this stranger who's posted Hermes content. Eager to learn more about his background. Just as he suspected, the Hermes haul had caught her attention. After observing several people's inner desires, he'd pieced together how the system worked. Only obsessive cravings registered directly, not trivial bodily urges like hunger or needing the restroom. The only time he'd seen a hunger-related entry on a panel was with Zhou Tongtong, who'd gone 3 full days without eating. That meant the class flower's longing for luxury Hermes was as intense as a starving person's craving for a full meal. Her WeChat username was also Miami and Bing. Unlike her cartoon Douyin avatar, her WeChat profile picture was an old high school photo of herself with a mushroom bob, barely recognizable compared to her current look. "Hey there," Yi Linchuan messaged first. "Miami and Bing. Hi. Are you the guy who messaged me on Douyin?" "That's me." The shots on the football pitch were beautiful. Miami and Bing sent a shy cat emoji and fell silent, leaving him to carry the conversation. Yi Linchuan had dozens of natural approaches he could take, but what was the point of creating an alternate account if he stuck to generic small talk? Since this was a throwaway persona, nothing he said here would tie back to his real identity. A mischievous grin tugged at his lips. "Hey beautiful, are you a freshman? Send me a couple more photos, yeah?" Reading the message, he nodded. This was exactly the cringy, overly forward vibe he'd been aiming for to test what the class flower was made of. This time, her reply took far longer to arrive. After a lengthy pause, a single photo popped up. A dorm mirror selfie in pink pajamas, her face half obscured by her phone, though it was unmistakably her. "Not enough. Can you send one with your full face visible?" He made the blunt demand to lean further into his greasy, pushy persona. The message silenced her again before she finally replied. "I'm kind of sleepy. Maybe another time." She wrapped up the conversation, her mindset reading. Finds his messages uncomfortably forward. His demands are off-putting. Not letting her end the chat, Yi Linchuan sent a maximum 200 yuan WeChat red envelope. "I'm looking to make friends. Treat yourself to late-night snacks on me." Sliding cash at her out of the blue was peak cringe, perfect for his act. Seconds later, Miami and Bing fired off a flood of messages. "Miami and Bing. Why send money right off the bat? I'm really tired. Can we chat tomorrow instead?" Her vague another time had shifted to tomorrow as her mindset changed. This guy seems rich and gullible, wants to dig deeper. Sending a few photos won't cut into your rest. If you don't want to talk, just say so. She fell quiet, then sent another selfie with her face fully uncovered. "Stunning. What university are you at? Major and name." "Miami and Bing. It's rude to bombard someone with personal questions. Tell me. And tomorrow I'll send a Hermes perfume to your dorm." He attached a photo of the perfume, a complimentary gift from his half-million yuan spending spree. The second he sent the picture of the perfume, she went radio silent. Several minutes ticked by before she replied, torn with conflict. "My name's Li Xiaoya. I'm an e-commerce freshman at Dongjiang University of Industry and Commerce." Her mindset shifted, convinced this man is wealthy. Hopes to cultivate him as an admirer to gift her a Hermes bag. This class flower played a far more sophisticated game than Zhao Shuani. Her standards were much higher. Zhao Shuani only dreamed of a rich boyfriend with a 10,000 yuan monthly allowance. Li Xiaoya already had her sights set on a 200,000 yuan Hermes Kelly, and she wanted it gifted to her as a suitor's token. That way, she could accept the luxury present, yet still turn him down afterward, under the unspoken rule that receiving gifts does not equal consent to a relationship. She'd get the designer bag while still clinging to her independent woman persona. But his gifts weren't so easy to take. Yi Linchuan had a plan. "All right," he replied. There was no need to drag the conversation out. He'd resume tomorrow after delivering the perfume, solidifying his image as a wealthy heir. He set his phone aside and slept. Zhou Tongtong was cripplingly insecure. She pressed his arm numb throughout the night, waking him repeatedly. Every time he tried to shift away, she'd curl back into his side. The next morning, Yi Linchuan roused to the rich aroma of seared meat. When he opened his eyes, Zhou Tongtong was gone. He followed the scent downstairs to find her standing at the stove frying meat patties. Linchuan, you're awake. I made flatbread and pan-fried the leftover steak. Zhou Tongtong had woken up at dawn. Homemade flatbread was labor-intensive work. Even his mother, a full-time housewife, rarely made it for him. At home, his mother would just hand him 5 yuan to buy breakfast outside. Wow, you're incredible at cooking. The flatbreads were golden brown without any burnt spots, and the steak patties sizzled with fragrant juices. I've been cooking since I was 8. Zhou Tongtong giggled. Finding Yi Linchuan beside her proved it wasn't a dream. She'd been smiling since sunrise. I'll go brush my teeth, he smiled, heading upstairs. By the time he finished washing up, breakfast was ready, flatbread wraps stuffed with pan-seared steak. Although they lacked vegetables, the meat wraps were incredibly flavorful. Is it good? She asked eagerly. The second he took a bite, she stared at him with hopeful eyes. Delicious, your cooking's amazing. I should have bought more groceries. Linchuan, if you ever get tired of cafeteria food, I'll cook for you anytime. With skills like yours, I'll absolutely visit often. His straightforward answer made her beam. Perfect. Tell me whatever you want, and I'll teach myself to make it. She'd found her most valuable way to win him over. I'm heading back to campus soon. You can head downstairs to buy groceries if you need anything. Just tell me if you're short on cash. Your brother's never lacking money. Another 300,000 yuan had hit his account, leaving him carefree. Realizing he had an early lecture, he went to his dorm to retrieve the Hermes perfume. He ordered an errand delivery straight to his lecture hall. During the class break, a delivery rider in a yellow uniform and kangaroo-eared helmet stepped through the front door. Li Xiaoya? I've got a delivery package for Li Xiaoya. Li Xiaoya, who'd been chatting with classmates, instantly recalled the message from Yi Linchuan's alternate account. Could it really be Hermes perfume? Heart racing, she walked out to claim the parcel, her roommates trailing behind, burning with curiosity over what she'd received. Crowding around the package, her roommates gossiped. Must be a suitor's gift, though they're rarely worth much. The speaker patted her regular leather Hermes Kelly bag, valued at 100,000 yuan, the exact symbol of Li Xiaoya's inner envy. Yi Linchuan had deliberately chosen a seat directly behind the class flower for this lecture. Most students had filed out to use the restroom or get fresh air during break, leaving him alone to watch the drama unfold. The girl who'd mocked Li Xiaoya was her roommate Wu Mengjia. The system rated Wu Mengjia as pretty, a notch above average, more attractive than most ordinary girls. Yet utterly unremarkable to Yi Linchuan's eyes, weighed down by caked-on heavy makeup. Her skin had darkened slightly after military training, and she layered so much foundation daily, it looked like she'd slathered flour across her face. He joked a single scrape of it could make a flatbread just like the one he'd eaten that morning. Worse still, she'd looked down on all the boys in their class with sneering contempt during training, as if she thought herself far superior to every peer around her. Word was her boyfriend was an older man 7 or 8 years her senior who ran an MCN agency. He planned to groom her as an internet celebrity. Yi Linchuan had stumbled across her Douyin account before, filled with dreadfully dull content that barely racked up a few hundred likes at most. He saw shades of Tang Tsuetsue in her, yet he owed her a debt. If not for Wu Mengjia flaunting her designer Kelly, Li Xiaoya would never be so obsessed with owning Hermes for herself. Xiaoya, open it up. Don't tell me there's some cheesy love letter inside, urged another roommate, Jiang Xinyue. Yeah, show us what you got. A chubby girl sitting beside Jiang Xinyue added, eager for gossip. With all eyes fixed on her, Li Xiaoya pressed her lips together and carefully unwrapped the paper bag. She already knew what lay inside, Hermes perfume. The thin paper wrapping fell away to reveal the bottle, delicate Hermes Un Jardin sur Lunel, its mint green glass exuding a faint, fresh scent even unopened, a bright blend of mango and summer lotus blooming in a pond, the very aroma of summer. Perfume? It's Hermes, I recognize the bottle. Jiang Xinyue commented, surprisingly knowledgeable for someone their age. Teenage girls knew far more about luxury goods than most adults realized. Plenty of counterfeit Hermes perfumes circulate, Wu Mengjia cut in with a sarcastic sneer. Fragrances were among the most commonly replicated luxury items, easy to forge. Some scammers even reused empty genuine bottles, refilling them with cheap sample vials to pass off as brand new stock. Even if it's real, Hermes perfume only costs a few hundred yuan. Hardly an extravagant gift, Wu Mengjia added dismissively. Hermes fragrances were the brand's most affordable entry-level product, slow to deplete, carried in purses for quick touch-ups at fancy events, a cheap trick many fake socialites relied on to feign wealth. Where's the love letter? Who sent it? Even if it's just perfume, it's the nicest gift Xiaoya's gotten from an admirer yet, Jiang Xiyue emphasized pointedly, thinly mocking Li Xiaoya's roster of suitors and their low-quality offerings. Li Xiaoya smiled and shook her head. I don't know who it's from. I'll ask around on WeChat later. She truly had no clue, and she couldn't very well admit it was the weirdly forward guy she'd added the day before. A stranger sends you such a nice gift without a note? It's definitely fake, isn't it? As she spoke, Wu Mingjia snatched the perfume bottle into her hands. She'd looked up authenticity checks with AI earlier that morning. New Hermes batches featured a micro QR code etched onto the bottle base, scannable for verification. She flipped the bottle over, spotted the tiny code, and scanned it with her phone, confirming it was 100% genuine. Whoever sent this has decent cash to burn, I guess. Still, they could have splurged on something nicer. Perfume's basically Hermes' cheapest product, right? She patted her own Hermes Kelly bag as she finished speaking. Yilin Chuan sat back, quietly amused. The old saying held true. 3 women make a full theatrical performance, and he'd just watched the show firsthand. The class beauty stowed away the perfume and did not send a message to Yilin Chuan's alternate WeChat account until class began. Miami and Bing. Thank you for the perfume you sent. This must be really expensive. You shouldn't have spent so much money on me. Reading her words, Yilin Chuan could tell her message was far from a genuine expression of gratitude. She was testing his attitude toward wealth, no doubt. Did you receive it? It's just a free gift I got when shopping at Hermes. They hand out little perks once you hit a certain spending threshold. It didn't cost me a cent. Now you see how well off I am, pretty girl? Smiley face emoji. Yilin Chuan fired off the messages one after another. By stressing it was a complimentary gift, he intended to let Li Xiaoya get a clear glimpse of his financial standing. His lines carried his usual cheesy, overconfident flair. He had just set his phone down when a message popped up from Zhao Xuani. Class monitor. Babe, you still haven't given that Kelly bag to your beloved class beauty, huh? Class monitor. Was that perfume from you? Zhao Xuani had stayed in the classroom after the last class and witnessed the whole exchange between them. Watching Li Xiaoya get mocked by her roommates, she suddenly understood why Yilin Chuan had asked about the Kelly. She figured he'd seen Li Xiaoya's roommate carrying the same style, and that's what prompted his question. Yet she couldn't help wondering why he hadn't handed the bag over to Li Xiaoya yet. I sent the perfume. The bag can wait. Class monitor. You're so mischievous. Babe, I love it seeing Zhao Xuani, who maintained a stern, serious demeanor in class. Chat with him so flirtatiously on WeChat sent an indescribable thrill rushing through him. Did you get the Balenciaga stockings? Class monitor. They should arrive at the package station today. Put them on after class back at your dorm and send me photos. Wear them to meet me tonight. Class monitor, saluting dog emoji. Zhao Xuani closed the conversation with a cartoon dog saluting, wordlessly promising full obedience to his orders. Compared to their raunchy private banter, her public conduct at school was tame as a children's cartoon. Though she told her roommates that she and Yilin Chuan were dating, the two never sat together in class. She brushed off any suspicion by claiming public displays of affection would look inappropriate as classmates. Yilin Chuan switched chat tabs. Miami and Bing, a free gift? Does that mean you spend a ton at Hermes? Yilin Chuan was certain she'd seen his flashy wealth posts on the short video platform and his WeChat moments. She was clearly pretending she hadn't caught wind of his fortune. Not all that much. Spent around 500,000 yuan last time I went, but my total accumulated spending's high enough to hit their platinum tier. They always toss in small luxury trinkets as complimentary gifts every time I shop there. Miami and Bing, what's your name? Which university do you go to? Li Xiaoya had begun proactively digging for personal details about him. Pretty girl, you're asking for my info so eagerly. You planning to chase me down? Yilin Chuan dropped another line dripping with cheesy arrogance. This remark left Li Xiaoya utterly flustered. All her life, boys had lined up to court her. Everyone treated her like an untouchable goddess, fawning and flattering her non-stop in conversation. She'd never encountered anyone who spoke to her in such cocky, forward terms. 2 or 3 minutes passed before the class beauty figured out how to reply. Miami and Bing, you sent such an expensive gift. Surely you wanted to make a new friend? We ought to know each other's names if we're to be friends. No need. I already know yours. If you're dying to learn mine, we can grab dinner and watch a movie together in person sometime. Then I'll tell you. Miami and Bing, we've barely chatted on WeChat. Isn't that moving a little too fast? Cat pouting emoji. Li Xiaoya tagged on a cartoon cat, smacking its lips at the end of her message. Whether two people click over dinner and a movie all comes down to whether our personalities match. What does the length of our online chat history have to do with it? Or do you think I'm not your type? Li Xiaoya's brows knit tighter and tighter as she read Yilin Chuan's messages. Somehow, she couldn't shake the feeling the man on the other side was full of manipulative tricks. Miami and Bing. It's not that at all. I just think it's too soon. Since you feel we're barely acquainted, how about we play a little game instead? A mischievous grin tugged at Yi Linchuan's lips as he hit send. Miami and Bing, what kind of game? I've got an Hermes brooch and pair of clip-on earrings here. Complete the task I set for you today, and tomorrow I'll send a delivery runner straight to your classroom with them. Yi Linchuan smirked as he sent over 2 photos. He'd looked up the prices of the 2 small Hermes accessories. The clip-on earrings cost 4,000 yuan, and the brooch 6,000, together nearly 10,000 yuan worth of luxury jewelry. He was confident she would never turn down such a tempting offer.